Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
All right. I'm getting here. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit late this morning. I mean, I started on time, but I'm running late. Let's see. I think I've got. I think we're going to have a special guest this morning. Back again. Guess who's back? Good morning. Wonderful to have you here. Let's see. It is. I'll let you have a couple guesses at who it is. Just 1 minute here. I'm not going to. You got to be quiet just for a minute there, special guest. Let's see, hide self-view. There we go. Let's get rid of that. Okay, we're almost there. All right, first of all, good morning. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, thanks for being here. Top of the morning to you. Victoria S., congratulations. You have won the internet this morning. First in chat, break the ice for everybody else, and now they can all come in. Wonderful to have you here. Victoria, thank you so much. Good luck with the internet today. It's a heavy job. There are a few people who can give you some pointers, but it's really, you're on your own for the whole day. So, good luck with that. Kathy is here as well. Mary Beth Robinson, Terry as well, Tracy, Laura, Linda Hill, my dog Murray. We're skipping this guy in blue. Who's that? Horse Sheet and Bananas, Minsky, Samantha Terry. I've got you there. I am Omni 008. Myra, we're going to have to just do a quick roll call here. The first come, first serve, right? Who's this guy on my screen? Hang on, let's see if I can make you. That's not the right one. Let's see. Let's bring you over here onto the live screen right there. There we go. Hold up. We're gonna have a little bit of a good morning here from my good friend. From all the way out of Texas, back from vacation. It's been a long time since I've seen you, but check out who's here. Who's this? Who's this guy? It's Weather Watch. Good morning, Weather Watch. Wonderful to have you here. I think I've got your audio set up so you can talk, and it will be there. Give it a try when you're ready.
Good morning, everybody.
Oh, does that sound great? Is that microphone just amazing?
And I actually have the right one plugged in this time.
That is awesome. Where have you been?
So a bunch of friends, our neighbors and I, about 15 or 16, we went up to Angel Fire, New Mexico for a little ski trip.
Oh, man. And no injuries to report?
No injuries to report. Just a few of us came back with the sniffles at the end of the trip, but we'll take that versus injuries.
It's worth it. It's a small price to pay. Hopefully the skiing was beautiful. Lots of snow. You saw the weather. You knew what was there before you got there, right?
Yeah, it actually, where we headed, it hadn't snowed in nearly 3.5 weeks, but that part of New Mexico, unlike Colorado, they don't produce man-made snow in their mountains, but some of the mountain ranges or I should say ski resorts in New Mexico, they'll pump out a lot of man-made snow when there's a deficit, so it's actually fantastic.
Wow. Well, that is cool. Well, you being here means there's probably something going on, either in the world of true crime or weather. Which is it this morning?
Yeah, so it's going to be weather for this afternoon and this evening for a group of the viewers. The Storm Prediction Center has put out an enhanced risk for severe weather in eastern Louisiana as well as western and central Mississippi.
All right, so enhanced risk, does that mean some of those little funnel clouds, or are we talking just lightning, windstorm, snow? I mean, what's in the works?
Yeah, so enhanced risks or severe weather, that does include potential for tornadoes today. And this is all supposed to take place in these areas later this evening and unfortunately late into the nighttime. So those nocturnal naders, as we say, those are the ones that we don't like and want to stay away.
Oh, man. So you said Louisiana, Mississippi. Our trial we're following right now is in South Carolina. There's no direct threat to that during the day, right?
Nope, nothing like that for today. All this is going to be in, like I said, Louisiana and Mississippi late this evening into the night. And the energy that's available for the severe weather is going to kind of dissipate overnight as it moves east into tomorrow. So further east tomorrow might see some rain and some other thunderstorms, but the severe threat goes away for tomorrow. Awesome.
Well, that's good news. Good news. Good to be aware of that if you're down in those parts. I know we have a few from down there. So yeah. Stay safe, please. Looks like we're going to be good till tonight, but keep your weather radio alarm turned on. Really, I guess if it's a nocturnal tornado, that's going to be probably your best bet is to get an alarm from your weather radio or your phone.
Yeah, weather radios are fantastic to have. They're really affordable and they're a great system. And I know for myself, my cell phone is always on silent, but I know if there's going to be overnight weather, I always turn that thing on loud. So that way, if you have weather apps and things like that in your phone, that might alert you as well.
Yeah. I tell you, moving out here to the East Coast, nothing was so unnerving as hearing the weatherman just casually report scattered tornadoes in the forecast. And, you hope that it's very scattered and then it never sort of strikes you. But unfortunately, they come down somewhere, and being prepared is really the key in a tornado situation. Having a safe place to go in case the unfortunate, the unlikely even does happen, could be the difference between life and death.
Absolutely. That's why being weather aware is so important. Staying in touch with your local weather, or even some of the guys on YouTube. We've talked about it before, Ryan Hall, y'all. There's a few others, but just knowing what's potentially going to be your way in a particular day, it could really save a lot of lives.
Yep. It's so important that having worked in the news station, I can tell you the highest paying job in the news station is the weatherman. And that's what everyone watches the show for. Even if it's just for the, a 5-minute little blip in the morning, he's the guy that brings in the money, as far as that goes. So do stay connected that way. Have you been able to follow any of the Murdaugh trial while you've been on vacation, or is this going to be like a lot of catch up for you?
So this is all catch up. I had you playing in the background yesterday. I had a lot of work to catch up on from my day job, but that was a good catch up. I tried to read a little bit about it on our drive home on Monday, but yesterday was a good catch up day, and I'm pretty much caught up on my work, so I think I'm going to be around for most of the day with you today too. So that's awesome.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, go ahead and ask your questions in chat as well. And a lot of our chatters know a lot more answers than I do. It's been fun to get answers to things. I'm like, that is a good question. And then boom, there's the answer. It's good to have I'm just looking through to see if anyone had any particular questions for you. We've got just a few minutes before court starts. If you've got a moment before you've got to start working.
Yeah, I've got a few minutes, absolutely.
Let's see.
I did see one from Heather. She asked to link my channel. Heather, my channel is not up yet. I'm getting a lot closer. I've actually done a few trial videos that I recorded, and I left them on my channel for a couple hours on accident, so someone might have seen them. But my streaming software and my audio setup aren't getting along, so I'm going to have to find a different software before I get that booted and set up.
Oh, all right. Let me know if I can be of any assistance along that front. But sounds good. And we still need to catch up and get some things finalized for a certain weekend show that we have in the works.
Yes,
a podcast.
We do. Yeah, that's right. Our podcast. And I'm not going out of town for the unforeseen future, so I should be around and have a free schedule.
Awesome. We're super excited about that. I'm loving it. It's going to be a little different format than what we do here. And it'll have a little more flexibility, but at the same time, it might have some of the same themes as far as, not getting too political maybe, but maybe broaching some topics that we don't do on air here, just because we're able to have a back and forth discussion instead of just like one way. So,
right, absolutely. And we're discussing doing a live format of the podcast, so that way those in chat, just as they do in your main channel now, can interact with us, throw in some questions or their opinions and point of views as well. I think that's what makes it fun.
Yeah. And Heather, I am excited for when I can finally link Weather Watch's channel. I twist his arm every chance I get, saying, "Are you ready yet? Are you ready?" And he is working on it. He'll be there soon. We'll have a Weather Watch channel, and it's super exciting. Let's see. Color Me Abstract says no sound at all. I think everyone else is getting sound. There is audio. you might want to stop and restart it. Check and make sure you don't have a Bluetooth device connected that you're not aware of that has the volume down or something. Of course, none of these things will work for you if you can't hear me. So, great troubleshooting right there. I verbally tell you why your sound isn't working. Let's see. Please thank Weather Watch for the rain. It's been weeks without, says Samantha Terry. He is personally responsible for ending the drought. So thank you, Weather Watch, for that. Now, I know your name, but I don't know if you want me to let anyone else know your name. Do you want to let your name out there, or are you more of a private person who will always be known by the mysterious name of Weather Watch?
No, actually, I don't mind. Okay. I don't mind my name being out there. That's fine.
Well, Thomas and Scott are the two of us. I'm the Scott. He's the Thomas, and we're probably going to go by those names on the podcast instead of Recovery Addict and Weather Watch. But we'll see. We'll talk that over. Let's see. Did you, from Franco, Weather Watch, did you hear about the newly discovered molten layer underneath the Earth's crust, 100 feet below upper crust, showing plate tectonics? Are they essentially floating in them as they move? So we're all floating on a sea of lava? Is that what I just heard?
Yeah, I already know that's kind of to be true, but anyways, I did see something recently that they touched on that was more new with some facts. But to be honest, between my trip and then work, outside of the weather threat for this afternoon, I haven't looked at anything else for the past 5 or 6 days. And then, of course, the snow report for where we were going, but that was about it.
Yeah. Well, even though you weren't here, you were responsible for a few things, as Thal made it perfectly clear in chat, that some good things happened that put a lot of people's names in green, and he said you were to blame for it. So we're going to go ahead and pass that blame on to you for whatever you started. But thank you very much. Let's see. CG in Texas says, Weather Watch, since freeze nightmare here, my medical insurance company calls me when scary weather is on the way. Oh, no.
Oh, that was terrible. So we got extremely lucky. Last year when we left for our trip, that freeze nightmare was North Texas all the way up to Colorado. So our entire 12-hour drive was terrifying. This year, we were on the northern edge of that whole freeze outbreak in Texas, and it was south. So after 20 minutes of driving, we were in 50-degree weather with dry roads. So we got really lucky, but I feel terrible for everyone to the south. Massive power outages and things like that.
Wow. Well, cool. That is awesome. Let's see. Always on Go says, Weather Watch, what have you thought about this whole case so far? Crazy to see how it unfolded each day. I wonder when you last heard. Where were we when you left? We were just, the judge hadn't ruled on the 404B hearing before he left. Probably that was what was starting.
Yeah, he hadn't ruled on that yet. But as I mentioned, I got to catch most of yesterday. So, I'm kind of in between. I will say in the beginning, it was absolutely no for me. I think he did it, but I don't think there's proof that he did it, the smoking gun, so to speak. But then as it keeps going, I feel like the state connects a dot or two, but I feel like they have about 1,000 dots to connect to really make that happen. So I kind of go back and forth. I also think they present things that are a bit of an and then they follow it up with a whole lot of nothing that I think kind of loses the attention of the jury as they go forward.
Yeah, I'm thinking the further we go into this with all these unconnected dots, this is going to be one heck of a closing argument from the state as they have to, circle everything together and draw the picture and present it in an hour and a half time is probably what they're going to use. They probably have a 2-hour time window for a closing argument. They're going to save half hour for the final word. That's going to be a speed talk and a half to try to wrap all this up for the jury if they wait until then to do it.
And that's the problem too, right? When you have to speed talk with so many facts and dots and everything together, something's going to get lost.
I did hear some interesting facts. We know that the jury's not taking notes, and I think that's by rule. But it may also be allowed if the judge admits it. And so it's possible that if the foreman of the jury sends a note to the judge and says, hey, some of us would really benefit with some notes here, he might be able to say, oh, sure, let me get you some legal pads and some pens. And I wonder if at some point the jury's going to want to do this just to be like, this has gone on for 3 weeks now. We're expecting 2 more weeks? That I doubt the state's going to finish before the end of Friday this week.
Yeah, and that's one of the catch-22 with note taking, with so much information coming out. As some of those jurors are sitting there taking their note on a key piece that they just heard, then they're missing what's being spoken or what's being presented at that time, if the trial didn't slow down a little bit. But so that'll be interesting to see.
Yep. We do expect some fireworks here in the next maybe 24, 48 hours within the courtroom. So we've got Tingley, the attorney, who was so fiery, and a little bit of spat back and forth on question during the 404B hearing, and we expect him to come up, and that will probably get exciting as well. That's something you don't want to miss. I'm not sure if it'll come up today. We're probably going to have the boys from the caretaker, the caretaker's son, on the stand today. We'll probably have some of that we saw in the 404B, and that's going to be hard, emotional testimony that they're going to probably draw out more of those deep feelings of, and just really make the jury feel like Alex is scum. Okay, they're going to point that out. But I'm watching for the fireworks. I have to admit that's going to be my favorite moment coming up.
I am excited for that because I caught a small replay clip from someone the other evening when I got home from that hearing, and I only watched about maybe 4 to 5 minutes of it. But holy cow, the back and forth battle between those two, that was fun.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. That's going to be exciting. All right, so I don't know where to pick up on. I think I'm too late to finish roll call. I don't know what to do with that. Roll call is a conundrum for me, how to accomplish it. We'll probably have to employ like a chat bot or AI of some sort to make this happen. But maybe I can do something on screen as well, where people can appear and it will. This might be a few weeks in the future, but your name would appear on screen and presented as you mark yourself present. So that might be something I can do. Let's see.
That'd be fun.
Do we see any more questions for you before we let your weather wisdom take a little bit of a break?
I saw one earlier. I think Lindsay Hendricks asked what my hat is. I know it's kind of hard with the lighting, but it's actually a souvenir for my trip. Angel Fire Resort had to pick up a little cap on my way out of town.
Oh, nice little representation there. Shout out to Angel Fire Resort. Yeah. Sounds like they treated you right. I saw a little bit of a picture, little video you sent me. I think from a deck, something looking up at the mountain and saying how far you had skied, which it looks, there was a little mountain way off in the distance. He basically said, I skied from the top to right here. But that's pretty cool.
It was incredible. When we got to the parking lot, the place was absolutely packed, and so we were a little bit worried. And there was not a single person in the lift lines all weekend. We don't know where everybody was.
Did I call him Tingley again instead of Tinsley this morning?
Yeah, you did. I thought it was on purpose.
I tell you, that's how I feel when he gets on the stand. I get all tingly, like, this is the good stuff. Here it goes. Now that's probably too much information, but I do enjoy that part of the testimony.
We should deem that his day moving forward.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. I think that if you can put it on his name there, it's been called. Good job. We've called roll. I'm personally ready for Cousin Eddie to enter the courtroom like a WrestleMania Rumble, Royal Rumble hero. Lindsay, I was thinking, I was listening. I think Lindsay, you sent me, might have been you. I think it was you. You sent me a podcast, the Lift a Cup type one. I forget what it, Cups Up. I forget the name of it. I was listening to that last night and this morning. Some good stuff. And it just brought out in there, someone just in a brief comment, we've got all this information that some of us have from documents and other cases and other events and news articles and stories and things. That's like, why are they saying this? And it's possible that some of the stuff just isn't admissible in trial. This almost smoking gun as far as motive may go just can't be presented in this court, whether it's been ruled on in a pretrial hearing or the state just knows that there's no way we'd be able to present this, or it might be a distraction in the court. So we'll have to sort of look at this just as the jury does, because right now I don't think the jury even knows about his alibi. I don't think they even know that he presented filed an official notice of alibi. But
yeah, I don't feel like they're tying everything together. It's, to me, what it kind of feels like, if you're outside and there's a whole bunch of rain clouds all over your area, but no rain has really started to fall yet. That's what it kind of feels like with all the information that's floating around in the courtroom.
Yeah, that's funny because I think that analogy was brought up in court about going outside and seeing the rain and knowing that it had rained or something. I think one of the lawyers was talking about that earlier, and that's funny that they bring up a weather analogy. All right, we're gonna get going. I think if that works for you, Weather Watch Thomas, thank you so much for connecting. So glad you're back. Can't wait to hook up with you offline and get things hammered down so we can proceed on the podcast front. But thank you very much, and lots of shouts out to you in chat, as you can see.
Yeah, thanks again for having me, and have a great day, everybody. I'll see you all in chat.
All right, see you. All righty. Okay, we've got some good stuff coming. I apologize for, I think it was worth hearing Weather Watch to miss roll call today, so I do apologize. I see you all here. Mentally, I've marked you present, so no one's going to lose points for not being here today, I think. A few people might get credit where it's not deserved if we're missing them, but Lindsay tips hat to Weather Watch. There we go. Thomas is awesome. I'm super excited for this podcast. It's gonna be so much fun. Okay, let's do this. Let's take a look at our court feed right now. First of all, we're just seeing the wall. Make sure we have audio turned on there. We have nothing. Okay, somebody right now has to remember that you have someone who's going to be here all day long at the end of the day, not the end of the first podcast, or at the end of the first session, but the end of the second session after lunch, needs to remind me to turn off the audio on the feed before we get the bars and tone sound from the camera. Because I leave this on all the time because I want to catch every sound that comes out of the courtroom in case there's a hot mic. And when I cut away from the camera at the end of the day, I just forget to kill it before we just get that deafening sound. Distracted by Doritos, what a name, is Lurking today. Good to have you here. Lurking is always welcome. But if you do have something to add, feel free to pop into chat. It's a friendly group. It really is. And we'd love to have any insights or questions you have. Does anyone else think 2 guns, 2 shooters, and Alex knows who they are? Ed, I think a lot of people think that. I mean, the defense brought up the 2 shooters idea. They obviously are not going to say the part about Alex knows who they are. If you listen to the Murdaugh Murder podcast, you're gonna know that the people that put that podcast on have a very strong feeling about Alex's guilt, and about the type of person he is, and about the type of life he led, and the type of cover-up he's capable of structuring. It's almost like a chess game, the setup. I don't know if the jury knows all that. We know they're local. We know that pretty much everybody knows the Murdaughs down there. But it's interesting. I don't know so much of the information that's in the podcast. I don't know how much is going to be able to be brought into court, even though it's pertinent and everything connects, right? You've got to sort of draw the line somewhere. It's like, how much am I going to bring in? How much am I going to say? How much am I going to show you as far as his background goes? Or, as far as Stephen Smith dying, as far as, the boat accident and what the girl knew, and just how the different court cases, how the liability went, and how everything, there's always another layer. You peel the onion back and you're like, wow, look at this. And then you can peel it another layer, and there's more, and there's more, and there's more. The prosecution has to decide at some point, this is it. This is what we're going to show the jury. This is how much they can understand and put together. I don't know what that was. Bite Me says, remember to turn your audio off at the end of the day, Scott. Thank you, Bite Me. I will remember now. Thank you for the reminder. Appreciate the super chat. Love the support. You guys are amazing. Let's see. Karen Fall says, FYI, Randolph Sr. killed himself by parking a car on a railroad track. I will say the more I listen to the Murdaugh murders, the more I suspect that Senior, the one who died a few days after the murders, or Handsome as he calls himself, I just have a hard time referring to him that way. I've never really seen him in real life, let alone a video. I have the feeling that he probably knew what was going on and might even have mentored Alex in some of what he did. It seems like there are too many connections and buddies and good old boy system that seems generational. Does that mean that Alex killed him? No, that doesn't. It just means that I think these were some people that were some good and some bad. I mean, like, in each person was some good and some bad, and some of the bad was pretty dark stuff. I think that's my take from that. Roll call ship had sailed. It did. It's gone. Oh, I missed. Somebody just gifted a membership. That was Bite Me gifted a membership, and it went to Gator Gal, and also just a little bit earlier. Let me see where it was. I've got to scroll up. Missy Pants gifted a membership, and it went to DSN. So thank you both of you for your generous gift of a membership, and congratulations, DSN and Gator Gal. On the free memberships. Wonderful to have you guys here. Make sure you take your seat and enjoy the court from the front row where you have a saved seat. Kelly says, Recover Addict has AM accounted for the clothes he was wearing earlier, shirt and pants, as to why they cannot be found. Kelly, we have not heard that question. We have not heard that be asked, nor have I heard him account for it in anything else. They didn't ask. And really, I think part of the problem is the way this investigation went forward is that so many parts of it were delayed so long that really the question becomes mute.
Just because you're awesome.
At least we could understand this one, Victoria. Just because you're awesome. Thank you for the super chat. Good morning. It's going to be a great day today. I'm glad you can join us, Victoria. Would not be the same without you. It's going to be fun. Kathy says, can't figure out how to take seat after welcome. Exclamation point seat, all one word, would do it. Would let you take a seat. Let me see who's done it. Just like this, just like Hannah did right there. And then it will go ahead and welcome you to the front row. Is there a seat available up front? Your seat's still saved, KQD. Good to have you here this morning. Let's see, going to crate, Mississippi Raptors and Reptiles is taking care of the feathered friends, Ruby, Dakota, and Edwin, before the bad weather rolls in. Thanks, Recovery Addict, for having Weather Watch on. It's always good when he can be on and join us. I hate to take him away from his work because I know he stays focused on whatever he's looking at. Goodwin Law Firm is here. Welcome. Good morning to you as well. Thanks for joining us the other day. Good to have your perspective. And I told you I'd remember your name. Is it Nicole? That's just a wild guess, and if I'm wrong, I'm very sorry. Goodman Law Firm. I think it's Nicole. Janice, Natural Empress, Carolina. Deborah, Sunny Florida Mom. Let's see. Yes, it was Nicole. Matthew Harris confirmed it. Matthew Harris is here as well. Wonderful. Let's see. Hello, Toxic. Good to have you. I try. It does not mean I'll remember this tomorrow, Nicole. It means that my short-term memory works. My long-term memory is not connected to my short-term memory. So we'll see how that goes. Good to have you here. Can't wait to hear some perspective, both from law enforcement and from the legal side, from you as this develops. Let's see. We got you on. I think we got you seated, Hannah. I think we got that. Okay. What can we expect today? Well, Picky, I think, let's see, where do we take off? The prosecution just finished with this last witness, who was, man, where's the name? Who's got the name of the last witness? So it's going to be cross-examination for where we are. I'm trying to remember who we left with. Good morning, Mario Line. Was that close? Did I pronounce that correctly? Stephen Lee drunk texting at 3 a.m. No, that was 3:16 a.m. Stephen Lee, 3:16 a.m. You drunk texted me last night, but good to have you here. Stephen Lee, for those who don't know, great friend of the program. Early on, provided the artwork. This artwork right here, that's from him. So grateful for that. We're trying to get that on a hoodie. So I'm working on that to get that on a hoodie here soon. But thank you so much, Stephen Lee, for that. Let's see. GSR expert was last witness. Yes, Keith Keenall, thank you so much. It's the forensic scientist that didn't bring her lab coat. She's the one who tested all the gunshot residue. We're going to get the cross-examination on that, and it should be a little spicy as well. I think it will be more forceful because they're going to try to push her off her balance and get her to say some things she wouldn't normally say. They want to get her, because she is an expert, they can ask her to speculate on things, and trying to get her to say something that, yes, this is possible, and produce doubt in the minds of the jury. So I think particularly the most important thing the defense could get out of her is that gun or that hoodie could have been worn inside out on a deer hunt 6 years ago and kept in the closet since then. And it would have produced the same results. If they can produce and maybe just 4 or 5 different scenarios like that are believable to to the jury, and to be like, yeah, that would make sense. Why there would be gunshot residue inside that blue jacket. If they can just present all these different ideas that a jury can say, yeah, that could happen, there's a reasonable doubt. And then sort of it negates the gotcha moment that the prosecution wanted with that information. So that's what I'm watching for today. Stephen Lee says, I watch those streams at night at work. It's awesome. Catch us up there. Thank you, Matthew Harris. We'll go ahead and pin this message because Megan Fletcher, the state's witness, is going to be back on the stand here for cross-exam first thing in the morning. Let's see. Let's see what else we have. That's so messed up. Drunk texting addicts. I love it. He's great. Stephen Lee does a great job. Sent a lot of artwork. Some of it is a little less share-worthy, especially I'm thinking the OnlyFans version you sent of Pickles Not Politics. But we won't go there. Red Pen is here. I'm streaming this over my phone while I walk in the Sonoran Desert. Hard to type comments with cold, fat thumbs. Red Pen, please stay safe, warm, or cold, whatever it is you're fighting there. It looks like cold, the Sonoran Desert. Sounds like fun, though. I paused my phone stream when Weather Watch was on, so my phone still shows Thomas's adorable smiling face. Well, CG, if you've got an iPhone, if you squeeze the power button and the up volume button at the exact same time, it will take a screenshot of what's on your screen, and then you can save that to your backdrop, so that every time you turn your phone on, you'll see Thomas smiling at you. So you're welcome, Thomas, for that. But good luck, CG. Hope that works for you. GSR is terribly faulty evidence if that can be the case. It can, and we already heard her testimony that came from the state saying that the gunshot residue will remain on an inanimate object indefinitely until it's basically removed physically. So I'm like, why would you ask her to say that? Why would the state ask that? I guess they're trying to steal the thunder from the defense, but the gunshot residue on this jacket could have come from anytime after that jacket was produced 40 years ago till now, if it was used with a firearm. So it could be that, it was just held open and it was, air drying out on the gun range inside out while people were shooting. There's so many things that could happen there that would produce doubt. Everyone drop some other bingo space things, please, says Lindsay. You guys creating a bingo card for today? That'll be fun to see. I'd like to hear what you have on there. I think I'm going to start a bingo card today, and the first space I make is going to be something along the lines of state attorney touches evidence with bare hands. That's a good one. The bare hands, we know which attorney that is. He's the one that got his hands all over the parka earlier. Let's see what else we have. What's a good bingo item from this case? I would say Harpootlian sleeping would be one. I think he's going to fall asleep. He doesn't seem to be doing much of the testifying or much of the questioning. He presents a lot of the general arguments before the judge as far as objections to evidence and things, but Jim does most of the work. I just realized I don't have my mug, nor do I have water, so I'm going to have to call out to one of my little kids to come supply me with those things, because I'm going to need that. Let's see, Van, one demerit, you're late, but she's here before the judge got here. So really, is that really late? The Triple X trial is hot, according to Georgia. I've heard that. It's going on at the same time. All secrets are deep. All secrets become dark. That's the nature of secrets. Cory Doctorow in the light of this case. I think there are a lot of skeletons in the closet. And I think some of these witnesses have skeletons of their own. It just, the further I dig, the more I just think this can't have happened the way it's trying to be presented. There's just, somebody knew something before it officially, blew the top. Bring back Attorney Tinsley. We won't have to break for lunch. She eats Alex Murdaugh's breakfast, or Alex Murdaugh's defense lawyers for lunch. He was very comfortable on the stand. Shay Patrice is here. Good morning, good people. Yesterday was a nightmare for Alex. He didn't win very many points. He did seem very frustrated with some of the testimony that was coming out. We'll see. I think he'll get more of that today. What's the over-under on AM taking the stand? That's if he takes the stand, he's going to be questioned directly on every point of his alibi that he's basically released a sworn statement on, saying this is what happened. That is contradicted by hard evidence. The Snapchat video, all the testimony of people recognizing his voice there, and the timelines and everything. Here we go. Judge is just coming in, so I'm going to stop talking here in just a second because we're underway. Get ready, buckle up. It's about to begin. Good morning, Your Honor. How are you doing? Judge Newman is ready. Looks like he's got a little candy or something in his mouth himself.
Ready for the jury?
State's ready. Bench ready.
Okay. So no business before court begins. Let's get this going. I'm going to, let's see. Okay, I saw how long I need to pause for. Just 1 second. I'm going to sync things up. Hold tight. 1, 2, 3. That is unbelievable that I just matched that perfectly. Frame to frame. I just got it synced up. Just kidding. It wasn't that close, but it's close. Okay. So now that one's a little tiny bit ahead. Good. We'll have our Alex Murdaugh cam going in no time. I have to watch 2 screens at the same time, sort of with crossed eyes, and overlay them in my head to determine how many frames apart they are. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, the kids are going to bring water and mug for me as well. Okay, let's see. Yes, my mug is on the way. It's coming in from the kitchen right now. Manhandles a witness. That's one that needs to be on the hits the witness with the evidence, or points a gun at the jury type thing. These are all things that we've seen so far. Unfortunately, my least favorite thing probably needs to be up there as well, and that's stands behind the witness in the doorway. That's one that needs to be on the bingo card as well. Let's see. I see Buster's hair. Buster's in the courtroom. There's a little bit of a gap in there. Looks like there are a few more people. He is seated further back than he was. Maybe the row behind his regular row. Does that look right? Or maybe it's just this angle. We'll have to see the zoomed in picture. I think can't see if his girlfriend's with him right now. Let's see. Show me that. Let's zoom in as if I'm controlling the camera. Oh, wait, they cut away. Okay. You said that one above? Oh, good. Adam, you read my mind. Thank you. Oh, we have Alakazam. This is my little boy. Here's the red mug today, and we have water as well. So thank you, both of you. Have a great day. Love you. Okay, so while the jury's getting situated, we're going to go ahead and do our ASMR moment. Right, now the jury needs to go to the bathroom. So there's that. Thank you, Katrina. I will mind the laptop for sure.
The jury is present, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning,
Day
Your
number
Honor.
13, cross-examination.
We count day number 11 because we're not counting the jury selection in our trial dates.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is it Agent Fletcher or Miss Fletcher?
Miss Fletcher is fine.
I hate the style. where he
Technically, I
acts
am
like he doesn't
commissioned.
know what
However,
he's asking
I'm a
about.
forensic scientist.
It's though I don't know what's going
Okay,
on. What's your name? Who?
Well,
What?
Ms. Fletcher, just want to go over a little bit of what you testified about yesterday and hit some smaller points. But I mean, you pretty much you said this yesterday, but gunshot primer residue is not biodegradable, correct?
No, sir. They're composed of heavy metals of lead, barium, and antimony. So they're individual particles of those metals. They are not biodegradable.
So if gunshot primer residue is on a surface, it will stay on that surface.
They're going straight
and will
for
not
the
degrade for hundreds of years.
This is what I said. This is what they've
Potentially,
got to
there's not
push.
studies that go out that far, but potentially.
Right. But
Going straight
the
for
only
the target.
way that current science knows to get primer gunshot residue off of anything is through cleaning, wiping it off, scrubbing it off, spraying it off. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And it comes out when a gun is shot, right?
Yes, that's how gunshot primer residue is formed. It comes out through the muzzle and in a semi-automatic through the ejector port or through a revolver through the muzzle gap. So any opening within the gun, it'll come out.
Yeah, so the gunshot primer residue will follow the projectile, whether it's pellets or a bullet, out the barrel of the gun, rifle, or pistol, will it not?
Yes, sir, it will.
And then if you have a semi-automatic rifle or shotgun, gunshot primer residue will go follow the discharge cartridge or shell shot as it opens up, right?
Yes, sir. Studies have shown as far as about 60 feet. Beyond that, they haven't been studied.
Okay. So within 60 feet of a gun being shot, there will be gunshot primer residue on whatever's around there. Fair enough?
Whatever's around the bullet, per se.
Okay.
When it gets out that far, it's more in the immediate vicinity of the bullet.
But for sure, gunshot primer residue will accumulate on the firearm that's being used, will it not?
Yes, sir, it will.
And if it's not properly cleaned and maintained, I mean, it'll stay there until it gets wiped off by someone's hand or left out in the rain or sprayed off, right?
Yes, sir, it will.
Okay.
There's a lot of noise
And
in
when
the
you were
gallery this
referring
morning.
to
People still moving around.
transfer
You can see people looking at the door.
GSR,
Lots
is that
people
one of
coming
the
in
things
and
you're
out.
referring to?
Yes, sir. If you touch a gun that had been fired at any point, then you have the potential to transfer it to your hands.
Oh, Buster just moved
Now,
up.
this jury has seen throughout the course of the trial a number of folks holding up some firearms that are in evidence. A couple of shotguns, 300 blackout, and they've seen they've seen witnesses hold up. Mr. Meadows held up yesterday this blue rain jacket, which you had identified having 38 particles or more on it. My question to you is it very possible that where you're sitting right now, there's gunshot primer residue?
That is a possibility, yes, sir.
Okay.
See, this is what they're going to start. Is this possible? Is that
Now, you did
possible?
some-
She's going to say yes to all of them.
You work in the Forensic Services Laboratory at SLED, correct?
Correct.
And there's a trace evidence operation manual pertaining to gunshot primer residue analysis, correct?
Yes, sir, there is.
And that governs you follow that manual, do you not?
Yes, I do.
I didn't see who sat down
And
next
you
to
agree
him.
with the statement that gunshot primer residue evidence is most probative in the following situations: from subjects who have not sustained a gunshot wound, from subjects who have not been in the proximity to the discharge of a firearm or admitted to discharging a firearm, and from subjects who were not found in the possession of a firearm.
I do agree with that, yes, sir.
And that's a statement of your operations manual.
Yes, sir, it is.
And you obtained clothing, which we know is from Richard Alexander Murdaugh, shirt, shorts, and shoes. And did someone under your supervision did lifts from those clothing items so that you could analyze the particles, correct?
Yes, sir. Jamie Hall collected the particle lifts off of those items.
And those and that collection was done on June the 8th, I believe, was it not?
Yes, sir, it was.
And are you aware that the clothes were collected on June the 8th?
Yes, sir, I was.
And were you aware that when the clothes were collected, they were wet?
I didn't know that they were wet until Jamie opened up the evidence, and it was evident that the shirt was a little damp and the shoes were definitely damp.
And so it's just been a few hours that that they had been placed in some sort of bag, and you open it up and they're wet, and you smell laundry detergent.
That's correct.
Okay. Were you aware that it had been raining that evening at Moselle?
I was not aware of that, no, sir.
Had it been raining laundry detergent?
In any event, you tested after Ms. Hall, is that it, Jamie Hall?
Yes, sir.
She did the lifts. And you located 3 particles from the white shirt.
Yes.
You were at 3 particles from the shorts.
Yes.
No particles from the shoes.
Yes.
And there was no particles on Mr. Murdaugh's hands.
There was one particle on his right hand.
I'm sorry, there was 1 particle on his hand. And you would agree that that amount of primer residue, gunshot primer residue found on an individual who you had been informed had a firearm in his hand when the police arrived, that it was consistent with the transfer from a firearm.
When I analyzed the evidence, I did not know that he had a firearm in his hand, but that would be consistent with somebody who had a firearm in his hand prior to collection.
Okay. Well, you learned that at least by June the 9th at 11:03 a.m. when you had a telephone call with Agent Owen, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you told him that that amount of gunshot residue would be consistent with the transfer from a firearm?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you stand by that here today?
I do.
Now
she's going to say yes to just about everything
the
he asked,
seatbelt
sir.
assembly, let's talk about that for a minute.
Which is part of the problem of the GSR evidence.
You did lifts, you and Ms. Hall, or Agent Hall, did lifts of the buckle, is that right?
Yes, sir.
The latch plate, is that right?
Yes.
And then 3 spots along the belt, the webbing.
Yes, sir. 3 areas along the belt. We divided the belt into 3 sections and did both sides of it. And those were the 5 areas that we collected.
I see. So did you take lifts from the entire webbing?
Yes, sir. We retracted it as far as it would go, divided it into 3 sections.
I see.
And collected them.
And the results of the lifts, and you did analysis, was there's 1 particle on the buckle, right?
That's correct.
0 on the latch plate.
Correct.
0 on the belt, on any of the sections of the belt.
That's correct.
So the whole belt was 0. And so they found 1 particle.
I confirmed 1 particle on the buckle. Yes, sir.
And you can't say how or when the particle was deposited on the belt, can you?
I cannot.
And I think you told this to Agent Owen that if Alex Murdaugh was shooting earlier in the day or anytime, at some point in time while he had that vehicle, and he got after shooting, he got in the vehicle that has the ability to transfer any gunshot residue primer to that vehicle, right?
Yes, sir. I cannot tell you when that particle was deposited.
So if he had had that vehicle for 2 years and he'd been out shooting and got in it, I could have deposited 1 particle on the buckle and it could stay there unless it got knocked off, right?
Yeah, unless it was cleaned, it could have stayed there. Yes, sir.
And if he went and got a gun and then put it in the car and then he got back in the car and he got transferred,
all these are going to be yes.
on him, and they could hit the buckle and that could put it on there, right?
Yes, sir. That could have happened.
It's just very, very small. You can't see it with a naked eye, but it stays there forever unless it's moved.
That's correct, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, you were also asked to do an analysis of blue rain jacket. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir, I did.
And once again, just like the seatbelt, there's no way for you to know when the gunshot primer residue was deposited on the blue rain jacket.
That's correct.
It could be at any point in time from the date that blue rain jacket was manufactured, right?
Well, probably not on the manufacturer date unless they were firing guns in the manufacturing plant.
But they could have.
Any time after a consumer takes possession, probably.
So if a consumer took possession of that garment 4 years ago, and we're going to talk about how you can get gunshot primer residue on it, but unless it's cleaned off or washed off, it'll stay for 4 years.
It could, yes.
And you have no idea how gunshot primer residue ended up on that garment, correct?
I cannot tell you how it got there.
I think he needs to give some examples that the jury can believe.
Or when it got there.
Or whether it was being worn when it got there, whether it was being worn inside out when it was deposited on there, or whether it was laid on top of a gun, for example?
I cannot tell you any of those scenarios.
Okay. So Mr. Randolph Murdaugh, are you aware that this rain jacket was found in a closet in September of 2021 at Mr. Randolph Murdaugh's home?
That was the information that was on the submission, yes.
And he died, I think, on June 10th, 2021. Were you aware of that?
I remember hearing news about it.
But if he, before he got into his truck, had taken off this poncho and flipped it over and threw it on the back seat of his truck where he kept his shotgun bow whoop, and it laid on top of this dirty old shotgun, it could have deposited 38 particles of gunshot primer residue, right?
If the shotgun was not clean, there is a potential for the transfer off of that shotgun, yes.
And if
Here's
the
another
if
example.
bow whoop hadn't been cleaned in years, there would be
Not an objection. What's he saying?
bow whoop.
No whoop.
B-O-W-H-O-O-P.
The name of his shotgun.
The name of Mr. Randolph Murdaugh's shotgun.
He named his shotgun.
If that shotgun hadn't been cleaned in years, it'd be more likely you would get gunshot residue deposited on anything that came on top of it, right?
The transfer would be more likely, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you also testified that 38 particles of gunshot primer residue was a significant amount. You
Yes,
remember
sir.
saying that?
Yes, sir.
So I guess then you would agree with me that one particle on the hand is an insignificant amount.
I can just say that it was present. I can't tell you that it's insignificant. It's just there.
Okay, that's
Yet you can say
that's our
38
official
is significant.
Because it's much more than you would expect on an item that wasn't in the vicinity or didn't come into contact with an object with gunshot primer residue on it. One particle, I can't tell you when or how or it got there.
Well, would you agree with 3 particles on a shirt is an insignificant amount?
It's just 3 particles on a shirt, and it can be one of the 2 ways, or a combination of the 2 ways of being in the vicinity or transfer.
Yet you're comfortable saying 38 is significant, but you're not comfortable saying 1 is insignificant.
Insignificant implies that the evidence itself is insignificant, but it's a particle of gunshot primer residue. I'm not going to say that it's insignificant evidence.
Well, should you say 38 is significant, or do you say there's 38 particles on there?
Significant implying that it's a large amount, not that it's a small amount, but a large amount.
So is 3 a small amount?
Not in how many that we get normally. It's about average.
Okay. Now, in addition to the rain jacket, and I think that is item 173 in your lab, you were also provided a blue tarp, item 174. Do you remember receiving a blue tarp?
Yes, sir.
And after discussing the scenario presented by the witness with Captain Ryan Neal, you and he decided that there was no need to process the blue tarp seized from Alameda, correct?
Correct.
And are you aware that this witness was Shelley Smith?
I am now. I was not aware who the witness was at the time.
So in your conversation with Agent Ryan Neal, he says, don't worry about the tarp.
Objection to hearsay.
The objection is sustained.
After your conversation with Ryan Neal about what a witness had relayed to him, you, in consultation with Agent Neal, decided not to test the tarp.
That's correct. That was based on that the raincoat was balled up in a closet versus the tarp being folded in a container and in place in a location.
When you say balled up, what do you mean?
I wasn't there, so I don't know, but that was the information. It was haphazardly placed in the bottom of the closet.
Okay.
There's both a tarp
If
and a
it had
raincoat.
been folded and placed on top of some other items in the closet, would that have made a difference to you?
I'm not sure. That would have had to have been a discussion between the agents and my management.
Have you seen all the photos of the search warrant, where it was found and how it was folded or not folded, balled or not balled?
I've seen one photo.
Okay. The one that's in evidence here?
I'm not sure.
You were informed from Agent Neal that, or you concluded that the supposition was that the firearm was in contact with the rain jacket, correct?
I'm sorry?
You documented that the supposition was that the firearm was in contact with the rain jacket.
They were trying to determine, I think, whether a firearm was in contact with the rain jacket, and that was a possibility given my results.
Okay. Now, you, so
we call her
what you did with
the
tarp?
Wednesday Addams.
Put it in storage and it's never been taken out again, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, I don't know what happened to the blue tarp.
Okay. Did you ever have any involvement with the blue tarp after it was presented to your evidence lab?
No, I did not.
The rain jacket do you know if fingerprints were taken off the rain jacket?
I don't know of any other analyses performed on the rain jacket.
Would you have been able to tell if there had been lifts for fingerprints when it came to you?
For gunshot primer residue evidence, the trace lab always gets it first because any other processes might remove the gunshot primer residue, so no other analyses would have taken place prior to ours.
The rain jacket was slated, I believe you testified, for further DNA analysis.
That was what was on the outside of the box, yes, sir.
And because of that, you and Agent Jamie Hall wore gloves and a gown and a mask, right?
We always wear gloves and the lab jacket, but the mask was added because of the DNA request.
Do you know the results of the DNA analysis?
I do not.
Okay. You were shown photos that were introduced in the evidence and of the rain jacket. And I just want to publish two more that were introduced in evidence. 438. Doug, can you put 438 on the screen, please? I think you had it, now it's gone.
Uh-oh.
There we go.
Hold on to the evidence, guys. Here comes the
Agent
prosecutors
Fletcher, can
and
you
they
see
hit
that?
people with it.
I can.
What's that?
This is a page out of my case file that I prepared for my technical reviewer and as part of my information to keep with me. It's a picture of the packaging, the paper bag that the rain jacket was included in, with the documentation on it, as well as the tag from the rain jacket labeling the brand of it, the size of it, and it also has our lab net information and the initials and date in which it was analyzed by the trace department.
Okay, now the bottom of this, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a date of 10/8/2021. Is that when you took the photo?
No, sir, that's when I prepared the PowerPoint for inclusion in my case file.
I see. Okay. So Doug, if you'll go to the next exhibit, 439, please.
I think Buster's bored back there. Or sleepy.
And there you've labeled manufacturer's tags. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jury what size this rain jacket is?
It's a large.
Okay.
It's very large.
And do you know this brand name? Kokatat?
I had to look it up. I wasn't familiar with it prior to this case.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Doug. Can you take that down, please? One second, Your Honor, please.
Who's the guy in blue behind the girl in red on the far right-hand side of the screen? I have to go back to him. Let's see. in the Alex Murdaugh shop.
Correct.
That was all they had?
Good morning.
Holy cow.
Mr. Griffin asked you about
Here comes your
38
bingo boxes.
particles on the parka, poncho, rain jacket, the blue garment.
Yes, sir.
You asked about the 38 particles. That's what I'm responding to.
Yeah, we just can't hear you.
Okay, well, I'll talk louder, sorry. Actually, how many particles were on the garment?
In total, there were 52 particles. There were 14 that I confirmed on the outside of the rain jacket, and there were 38 on the interior of the rain jacket.
And I confused myself yesterday. There were 13 particle lifts and 12 particle lifts, correct? And then out of that, you found the 52 particle characteristics of gunshot primer residue, correct?
That's correct.
And 38 of those were on the inside?
Yes, sir.
That's what he asked you about. 14 were on the outside?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you wear that garment, do you typically wear it inside's inside? Is that what it means?
I would think so.
Yeah. And he asked you, is it a possibility that a firearm had come in contact with the rain jacket, and you said it's possible, it's really possible, isn't it? I mean, those numbers are unusual, aren't they? 38.
For the interior of a garment, I would think that they were unusual, yes.
And that's common sense, isn't it?
Well, they're just not,
What is it? I'm sorry. How do you describe that in your world, everyday living, and then you're examining it? How do you describe those particles inside
She
of a
can't say
garment
common sense. She has to use other
that you're
words.
supposed to wear with the outside?
well, typically people wear their clothing right side out. And so if they're in the vicinity to the discharge of a shooting, that's where the particles are going to land.
On the outside?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Griffin asked you about, I think, a hypothetical if Scranton's father's gun had laid on it and it was in a truck, would the 38 particles inside of the rain jacket be consistent with a recently fired firearm being contained inside?
It could be, yes.
With a recently fired firearm being carried inside of that rain jacket?
Just inside the rain jacket. I don't know that it matters if you're carrying it.
Okay, well, you're very technical and precise, okay. But if you were carrying it, and you had a gun inside that rain jacket that had recently been fired, and you were taking it somewhere to hide it or transport it, would the 38 particles inside the rain jacket be consistent with transfer from a recently fired firearm?
That is a possibility, yes, sir.
And again, how did you describe those 38 particles in your world?
They're unusual because they're on the interior of a garment.
Go ahead.
And it is a large number.
Unusual because they're on the interior of a garment, and an unusual number.
Well, a large number.
Object.
The last answer for the record was a large number?
Yes, sir.
Here comes another objection. Let's see.
Very, very briefly, Agent Fletcher, what I gather, there's just a whole lot of possibilities of what could have happened, right?
That's correct.
And the only thing you can tell us is what you saw under a microscope.
Yes, sir.
You can't tell the jury how it got there, right?
That's correct.
Or when it got there.
That's correct.
And, okay, and I forgot to ask one further question. A rim-fired gun, does it produce gunshot primer residue?
Rimfire ammunition does produce gunshot primer residue. Some don't produce the traditional lead, barium, and antimony. Others do. It just depends on what type of ammunition is used.
Rimfire ammunition was not at play in this case.
Thank you.
That would be something like a 22 bullet, 22 caliber bullet, like
Call your next
what we
witness.
had in the last trial.
State calls Annette Griswold.
Okay, that was interesting. Annette Griswold, come on down. You're the next contestant. Let's see what you're wearing. Just the badge today, the turquoise badge. And she's getting sworn in practically in the gallery. She barely made it through the gate, and you're putting her under oath.
My name is Annette Griswold, Griswold.
Ms. Griswold, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay, thank you.
Good. If you would just tell the jury a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and what you do for a living, please.
Okay. I grew up in Hampton, South Carolina, and lived there for the first 18 years of my life, graduated from Wade Hampton High School, went away for college at 18, ended up falling in love with the Charlotte, North Carolina area. Over the next 2 decades, I spent most of that time in Charlotte. That's where I got married. And with the exception of a few years coming back to Hampton and a few years in Columbia for my husband to get his degree, that time was spent in Charlotte until 2012. My dad took ill and he wanted us to move closer to be near him, and my mom needed help taking care of him. So I moved home in 2012 after my father passed away. A few months after, I went back on the job search, and I'd been out of work for 2 months helping my mom. So I was looking for a job and ran into my friend's father, and he told me I should probably check the law firm. I found out that I had a school friend that worked there, so I reached out to her, sent her my resume, and she forwarded it to the right people. And 3 interviews later, I was working for the firm, and I worked as a paralegal and was hired to work for Alex Murdaugh.
Which firm are we talking about?
What everybody refers to as PMPED.
Okay. And when did you start working there?
July of 2012.
And when you started working there, who were you working for?
Alex Murdaugh.
And the entirety of the time that you were there up until the time that he was no longer a partner in that firm, is that who you worked for?
That's correct.
So how long was that?
That was a little over 9 years.
Were you the only staff member that he had that was assigned to him?
No, we have, there's 2 of us that worked for Alec. I'd been with him, like I said, the 9 years. And then the other secretary was Christy Gerald, and she had been with him about almost double of what I'd been there.
Quickly describe for me sort of the division of labor between you and Christy Gerald, please.
I was hired to handle more of the larger cases that Alec had, where it's litigation law, and so it's personal injury for the most part, workers' comp, medical malpractice, premises liability, product liability, wrongful death, trucking cases. And so he wanted me to take over those bigger cases and handle those, and then Christy did more of the day-to-day stuff and the smaller files. Still just as important, but just smaller files than the larger ones.
You had the more complex stuff?
I did.
The bigger cases?
Yes, sir.
She did all the work.
Just
Alex
quickly,
collected the fees. That's
how
what I'm
was
hearing.
the defendant as a boss and a lawyer? Just what were his typical work habits, and what was he like in the office?
Extremely intelligent when it comes to the law. I respected and admired that in him greatly. He didn't keep normal hours. He liked to float in later in the late morning time or early afternoon. We always had a running joke.
Early
We never
afternoon.
knew. We knew that he might not be
That's
there
worse
all
than
day,
baker's
but he would
hours.
always show up right before 5 o'clock when we were ready to leave. So just, kept unset hours. Pretty, I sometimes referred to Alec as a Tasmanian devil, because when he walked in, no matter what you were doing, you were started spinning, because he was just coming through and shouting everybody's name and ready to get work done when he was walking in the door. So it was kind of confusing.
Let me ask you just a little bit. The jury's heard some testimony about disbursement sheets and how they work. And can you just remind them very quickly how that works? Who prepares the disbursement sheets and how does that go about taking place?
After I find out that a case is settled, I go ahead and start getting my disbursement sheet ready where I can kind of go ahead and expect what the deductions are that are going to come out of it. The attorney's fees, the expenses. Anytime you have Medicare or any health insurance, there's typically a lien on that money, and we are required by law to pay it back. So I go ahead and start looking into all that, draft the sheet, and get everything on it that I know that I'm aware of, and then it goes to Alec, and he makes any changes he needs to, and then he would sign. Once he signs off on it, I send it across to our accounts payable department, and they cut the checks.
Are you familiar with what is generally referred to as the boat case?
I am.
And that is the boat wreck that occurred around February of 2019?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that the defendant was sued civilly in that particular case?
Yes, sir.
After the boat case happened, did you notice any change in the defendant's demeanor around the office and about his work habits?
I did. He was more distant. Even when he was in the office, he was absent. It was hard to, he's always been hard to sit still and get answers from, and to sign our documents and anything that we had put in his office to sign, but it got extremely worse after the boat accident. He was rarely there, and when he was, the door was closed, and it was almost impossible for us to reach him. He was always on his phone. He was always dealing with something bigger than what we had going on.
This guy was a great boss.
As time moved on into the early part of 2021, did that even get worse?
It did. He would come in lots of times, and he was just not his normal self or what his normal self used to be. It was just very tense, and I don't know how to describe it. It's just, you could tell that it was the boat crash was weighing heavy on him, and it was consuming his life almost, it seemed like, and he was just harder to reach. And there was a couple instances where I referred to him as having his ass on his shoulders, because that's how I felt. It was disrespectful of me to feel that way and to say that out loud, but that's how I felt, because he just wasn't himself with us anymore. He came in and it was just like yelled our names and just didn't treat us the same way he did prior to the boat accident.
Was the defendant very protective about anyone going into his office?
He was. There was often times where he would come in on a Monday and say, "Who's been in my office?" And we'd be like, "I don't know, probably the cleaning ladies. We have no idea." He was, it was very cluttered, very unorganized, but he said he knew where his stuff was, that it was organized in his way.
Jury's heard a lot of testimony about this, and just in the interest of time, I'm going to ask it this way. Over the years, in various cases, did the defendant ask you to put disbursements to forge on various disbursement sheets so that settlement checks would be prepared from the trust account made out that way?
Yes, sir, he did. I can't remember when it started, but he told me, to put it on Forge, and me knowing Forge Consulting was a legitimate company, I would, on the disbursement sheet, I would put Forge Consulting, and he would say, "No, it's not Forge Consulting. If I wanted to be Forge Consulting, I would have told you Forge Consulting. I want it to be Forge." And I was like, "Well, I don't understand. Isn't the name of the company Forge Consulting?" And he told me that, he described it to me. He said, "Think of it like Forge Consulting is the large company, and Forge is a kind of under that umbrella of it." So he said Forge Consulting is the big name, and then you have all different things they do, including Forge, which is more like a savings account than a trust.
So he would actually get you to change it from Forge Consulting to just Forge?
Correct. Even when across the street at the accounts payable department, they would write the check out to Forge Consulting, lots of times I would have to reach out to them and say, "Hey, you wrote this to Forge Consulting. He says it needs to be Forge." And so lots of times they would have to change that.
Those checks that he would have on disbursement sheets to get cut, made out to forge, would he often talk to you about picking those up personally?
Yes, I would ask him if I could go ahead and mail it to Michael Gunn at Forge Consulting, because he was our contact. And he would say, no, you know what, I'm seeing Gunn this weekend. He's coming out to the farm, or we're going to meet halfway tonight and have dinner. He always said that he was going to hand deliver it. So I even got to where I would make file notes in my files, Alec took check to hand deliver, because I was so worried that he was going to lose these checks. Because he was, you know, a little aloof sometimes, and, you know, would leave keys in his vehicle, would misplace a few things. And so
that's where Paul
I was
got it.
so worried that these checks were going to get lost, and then we would have to do a stop payment and reissue the check. So I started making notes where I would remember that I didn't mail it, that it was actually hand delivered.
Well, hand delivered, at least from who was telling you it was going to be
That's
hand
correct.
delivered.
Yes.
Who was saying that?
Alec was.
All right, when you're talking about the defendant or Alex Murdaugh, do you see him here in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you point him out to the jury, please?
Yes, he's over in the, it looks like a navy blue jacket.
Your Honor, can the record reflect she's identified the defendant? You mentioned he would say that, oh, I'm going to see Gunn, I'm meeting him halfway, we're going hunting, things like that. Tell the jury again, who's Michael Gunn?
Michael Gunn he's our contact. He's the person we talk to when it comes to trust annuities with Forge Consulting.
And that's the real Forge, correct?
That's correct.
Not the fake Forge?
Not the fake Forge.
Moving into the latter part of 2020, did you have any particular issue arise with a disbursement to Forge that caught your attention?
I did.
Tell me about that if you would, please.
I was currently working from home. I'd had surgery on Halloween of 2020, and I was working from home, hadn't come back yet. I was planned to come back to the office the following Monday, and on that day, I believe it was December 15th of 2020, I got a phone call from the accounts payable department. Nicole called me, and she's one of the ladies that cuts the checks and works for Jeannie Seckinger. And she told me that she had just got a disbursement sheet over, that Christy had sent over a disbursement sheet in one of my files. It made no sense. She didn't understand it. And I was like, I was confused too, because I was like, why didn't he contact me to do my disbursement? Because I'm kind of protective over my files. If I've worked that file the whole time, I want to finish that file. I want to work the whole process of it. And actually the disbursement part is my favorite part of the file, because I want to be able to have that, be there when that client gets their money and gets that closure that they deserve. So I thought it was very odd
gotta be
that
pretty rewarding to
Christy was drafting a disbursement in one of my files, and
this was the day you were off work.
That's correct. I was working from home, and I still could have been reached, but I wasn't until Nicole reached out to me and told me.
Keep going.
She told me, so she sends it to me by email or text, I can't remember, and I reviewed it, and it didn't make sense to me either. There was a line on it that said the attorney fees were going, or amount of it was going to Forge, and I didn't understand how that was happening. And I'd never seen him send attorney fees to Forge before, and so I didn't know that that was even a possibility. And so I called the office, and Christy transferred me to Alec, and I spoke to him and asked him about it. And he said, why did Nicole call you? And I said, well, she doesn't know how to write these checks out, because it doesn't make sense to her. She hasn't ever seen a disbursement like this. And he said, I'll take care of it. And so he said, I'll call Nicole, I'll take care of it. And so I remember talking to Nicole later and say, so what did he say? What was the reason behind it? And she said, he said that they can structure their attorney fees, and that's what that check was for.
Did you have a subsequent discussion with the defendant about that?
I did, and he told me the same thing. He said it was something that they've been able to do forever. He just never took advantage of it before, and so now he decided that he was going to start structuring those attorney fees where it would make interest, have interest drawn. And so it made sense, because why not? Why not, instead of having that money sit somewhere, put it somewhere where it's going to draw more money?
His explanation to you made sense.
Yes, it did.
On its face.
Yes.
Do you remember the name of that case?
That was the Hirschberger case.
I'm going to show you. Stand by. We'll show you what's already been admitted to evidence that states 429 and see if you recognize this document.
Yes, I do. This is the disbursement that was in December of 2020 that I was talking about.
Okay.
I don't think she works there anymore.
All right.
It was just she worked for Alex, and I think she's done now that he's gone. I think that's what I heard this morning. I'm just basing that on what I heard this morning.
At that point in time, we're in December of 2020, is that right?
That's correct.
After the defendant gave you that explanation that seemed valid to you on your face, did that matter just kind of go away at that point in time?
It did. It was kind of, always at the back of my mind because I still felt like there should have been some kind of paper trail, but yeah, the explanation worked that he gave me, and so I was trying to just go along with it because I thought it was valid.
As we move on into January 2021, did another incident happen that came to your attention as it related to disbursements?
Yes, the end of January, it was a Friday afternoon. I left early that day to take my mom to the eye doctor, and kind of the same scenario of kind of an exact repeat of December happened again. Nicole from Accounts Payable called me, and I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "Well, I've got another one." And so Christy had drafted a disbursement in a case referred to as Moore, and she had sent it over, and once again it had the same wording and kind of confusion that the Hirschberger one had a month previous. So she didn't really understand it again. She was still trying to say, I feel like we need more information on this, and I said, I do too. And so kind of the same scenario as before. I reached out to Alec, he reached out to Nicole, and ultimately the checks got written. But it was the same scenario as you can see on here. The $91,867.50 was attorney fees that were structured that went straight to forge, to the fake, what we now know was the fake forge.
All right. And is that still in the Hirschberger matter you're talking
That's
about?
the Hirschberger one, and on the Thomas More one,
We'll
it was.
get there in a second.
Okay.
When you got that call, do you remember where you were, the second call?
Yeah, the Thomas More, I was at the eye doctor with my mom.
All right, I'm still on Hirschberger. Do you remember where you were on that
Oh,
second?
I was home. I'd had surgery and I was home recovering.
And I'm gonna.
Hey, Mo Freedom, I think that's the reverse. There are two versions. One is the lower end up top, the other is the top end down low.
We're still in the same exhibit, that being 429. Do you recognize that at all? Let me hand this exhibit to you.
You guys are so bad.
Just take a flip through it, if you would, please.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is what we refer to now as the second Hirschberger disbursement. It was on the UIM portion of the case and liability portion.
This is one of Alex, I believe, paralegals.
Once again, the P&P attorney's fees were routed to Forge in the amount of $83,333.33.
All right, you had started to talk about Thomas More. Is that another incident that came to your attention as we're moving into early 2021?
Yes, sir. That one, like I said, was at the end of January. Once again, I was out of the office. I was at an eye doctor with my appointment with my mom. Got the call from Nicole. She said it's the same scenario. But this time it was all the funds that was in client's trust, which was $125,000, I believe, and all those funds were being routed. That was attorney fees and client money that was being routed to the fake forge.
And this was another one of your cases, is that right?
It was. So another situation where I'm out of the office. It's almost 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. Christy drafts the disbursement. Alex signs it. They send it over in my absence.
When these instances are happening that you're describing to the jury, where you happen to be out of the office, and these are your cases, right?
That's correct.
And all of a sudden you're getting communications that the defendant is having Christie draft some disbursements. In any of these cases, was there anything going on that something happened and had to be done that very day that you just happened to be out of the office?
I didn't think so because, in particular, the Thomas Moore case, we were working on the third-party portion of the case, but there was also a workers' comp portion that another attorney was working on. And when you're working on a workers' comp case, if you settle the third party first, you can't disperse it until the workers' comp portion is taken care of, because workers' comp always has a huge lien that you have to negotiate for the client. So the money was supposed to sit there. It was my understanding it would probably be sitting there another year until the workers' comp portion of the case was settled. So those funds didn't need to go anywhere. So it was very odd that all of a sudden they're all sent to Forge because they were supposed to remain in the account, was my understanding.
Do you take pride in the work that you do on these complex cases?
I do.
Do you know your cases very well?
I'd say I do.
And was there any reason of which you were aware that things had to be happening the day that they were?
I did. No, it definitely put up another yellow flag, and it made me think about the previous one that happened in Hirschberger in December, because both of them were kind of the same scenarios. Me out of the office, someone else drafting it, and not that we can't work in each other's files. We can, but it's easy to miss something if it's not your file. If I had to go in somebody else's file and draft a disbursement, I may not know that there's a lien or a certain promised medical bill or anything else that needs to be paid. So
I think Alex just put a whole bonbon in his mouth.
It's easier if somebody that's worked the case actually drafts the disbursement, because they know all the deductions that have to come out.
Was the defendant using the opportunity of you being out of the office to push these things through?
Yes, in hindsight, it was easy to see that the chaos, the sending it over at 10 minutes before 5 p.m. was kind of a part of that little hurricane, a little tornado portion. Just sending it over when most people are gone, and it's just going to get done quickly and no questions asked.
You said that the Thomas Moore line was particularly unusual because it was workers' comp and those funds couldn't be dispersed yet, correct? To your understanding?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever have a conversation with the defendant about why these funds were dispersed?
I did, and he explained to me that he had gotten permission that since the money was going to be sitting there another year, that they were going to send it to Forge and let it draw interest, and then that would be money that would draw interest on for the client as well as the firm, because it was both portions of the money.
I'm going to show you what's already been admitted into evidence as States 328 and see if you recognize this document.
Yes, this is the Thomas Moore disbursement that I'm referring to, where the entire client trust amount of $125,000.
Do you recognize the signature down at the bottom of the page?
I do. Alex signed it where it says R. Alexander Murdaugh, and then where the client's signature is, that is not the client's signature. It's Alex's handwriting.
You recognize his handwriting from working for him for 9 years?
I do.
Did the defendant have a case going on around this time involving Mack trucks?
He did. What we refer to as the Ferris case. We actually went to Columbia and had a bench trial in that case in January of 21.
And did you work on that case to some extent?
I did.
Okay. Was that one of the ones assigned to you?
Yes.
Was the defendant the only lawyer on that case, or were there other lawyers?
No, there was 2 co-counsels that had brought us in. Wayne Ridgway was the first attorney that received that case. He reached out to Chris Wilson's office, and Chris joined the case as well, and then Chris reached out to our firm, and so now there's a third attorney, which was Alec, involved in it.
Ultimately, was that case tried before a judge?
It was bench trial, like I said, in January of 2021.
And did the judge issue a verdict in favor of the firm's clients?
Did, yes, sir. And the next month, I think sometime in February, we got a very nice verdict for the clients.
Who was going to be dispersing the fees in that once the money came in? Was that going to be PMPED or was it going to be the other attorney's
Chris
firm?
Wilson's office.
Had the firm PMPED, had it accrued costs in the course of that litigation?
Yes.
Expenses?
Yes.
And did you prepare those and send those to Chris Wilson's office, or how did that work?
I did. I put the totals in an email and sent them to, Alec wanted me to send him the totals by email, and so that's what I did. And then I guess he sent them to Chris after that.
All right. And then after that happened, do you remember what month the money came in, roughly?
In May.
Well, let me slow you down. Once you've done that, when the money comes in, you said Chris Wilson's office is going to be handling that disbursement, correct?
Correct.
What are you expecting to happen next?
I'm expecting copies of the settlement paperwork, copies of the disbursement sheets signed by the client, and I'm expecting 2 fee checks and 2 expense reimbursement checks, because there's 2 cases. It was a case for the deceased and a case for his wife. So I'm expecting 4 checks total.
All right. And you're about to say, and I cut you off, you said something happened in May. Did something happen related to the Ferris case in May?
Yes, I received by mail the settlement package from Chris Wilson's office, but all it contained was a cover letter and the 2 expense reimbursement checks. So I emailed Vicki Lyman, which is Chris Wilson's secretary, and said something like, hey girl, I got these expense checks in, when can I expect the attorney fee checks? And she replied to my email telling me that, excuse me, hey friend, the attorney's got that money at disbursement. And I was really shocked because I didn't even know when the disbursement took place. I was never supplied copies of it or anything.
What's your thought when Vicki says that? What did you think may have happened?
Well, I called her and I said, you already gave the checks. I was like, I don't think we've received them. And she was like, yeah, they were done at disbursement in March. And so I asked her first to send me over copies of the disbursement sheets and where I could look at those. And then I reached out across to our accounts payable just to make sure that checks somehow bypassed me and went straight to into the client trust, to their department. And they told me no, that they didn't have any such checks on the books either. And I was like, okay. So I assumed that they gave Alec the checks and he's lost them. They're misplaced. They're somewhere in his truck. They're somewhere in a file folder stuck and just kind of hid away and he's forgotten to give them to me.
Did you say that to Vicki? Like, come on, why'd you give them to my boss?
Why? I said, why would you do that? I was like, why would you give checks to the attorney? Why wouldn't you send them straight to me where I can get them deposited?
I'm going to put States 312 that's already in evidence, and this is the page marked Bait Stamp 2371 for the record up on the screen. Can you see that on your little screen? Do I need to bring that in?
I can see it.
And can you tell the jury what that is?
That is the email I was talking about where I told her I just got the expenses, but where's the fee? And she says, it's because your boss and mine and Liz's got their fees once they were signed, duh.
Duh.
Did you have a conversation with Alec at this point, or what did you do next?
I did.
So you called the finance in your own firm and said, hey, did we get this check? And they
Correct.
said no.
They said no. And so I verified that, and then I asked Vicki, I said, are you positive? And she said yes. And I was like, okay, I'll go see if he remembers where they're at. So he happened to be in the office by that time. His door was closed. I went in, he was on the phone, and I kind of kept checking and going back. Eventually I got to speak to him, and he was still kind of on the phone, but he was like, no, I didn't get those checks. And I was like, are you sure? And he said, yeah. And I was kind of back and forth. And I'm like, you said he didn't get them. Are you sure? And this kind of went back and forth for a few minutes, and over the course of the rest of the day. And I said, hey, he just told me that Chris was still holding those funds in trust. I was like, I don't understand, you say that they've been cut. I was like, can you send me copies of stuff? Because I don't see anything. And he's telling me their funds are in trust. And she was like, Annette, I know for a fact that the checks are cut. There is no money in trust. And the reason I know that is because when the checks were written to Alec, I knew it was a bit odd because they were written to Richard. They were written out to him personally instead of the firm. And I said,
they were written out to him personally instead of the firm.
Correct.
Why did that stick out in her mind? Why did that stick out in your mind?
Because common sense tells me that the attorney fees belong to the firm, where the firm, I don't know, I didn't understand the complete breakdown until Jeannie went over it in her testimony, but I knew by common sense that the funds belong to the firm, and then once they do whatever percentages and everything they need to do, then the attorney gets his portion later. So I knew it wasn't right, that it shouldn't have never gone to an individual attorney, it should go to the firm as a whole.
When you asked the defendant, said, hey, Vicky says you already got those, and he tells you what?
He told me that Chris was holding that money in trust, that it had not been dispersed yet.
Did he tell you Vicky's wrong?
Yeah, he told me Vicky's wrong. I don't care what she's telling you, she's wrong.
What was his demeanor when you were inquiring,
Just kind of like, just shooing me out of his office, like, I don't have time for this.
After Vicky tells you that it was odd because the checks had been made out to the defendant personally instead of the law firm, what did you do next?
I asked her, I said, are you sure? And she said yes. And she said, yeah, it was written out to him. Well, first I was like, I'm sorry, what did you say? And I made her repeat it to make sure I heard correctly. And she was like, and then kind of while she was saying it out loud, I think it kind of registered to her, oh, wait, that probably wasn't the right thing to do, because she kind of hushed after that and didn't want to talk and kind of wanted to get off the phone with me. And so I still kind of tried to question Alec over the next couple days and tried to get a reasonable explanation of what was going on, because in my mind, I'm still hoping he just lost the checks and this was all just a misunderstanding. But at the back of my mind, there's this huge red flag telling me this is not right. What is going on?
Did you eventually take this issue to anyone else since you couldn't get an answer about it?
Yes, I eventually, I don't know the exact date, but I eventually emailed Jeannie Seconder and asked her if she was in the office because I really needed to speak to her. And she said she would be back later that day. And so I went into her office and I had everything printed out and kind of showed her and told her my concerns. And she was instantly on, on high alert as well, because, it didn't look good. We were still both hoping that it was a misunderstanding, just this one-off, something silly that happened, but we both had that nagging feeling of, this is not good. Something is definitely wrong.
Did Jeannie instruct you to do anything?
She did not. She said that she would talk to him about it, and she kept the paperwork that I gave her.
Were you ever asked to send another email to Vicky asking for particular documents?
Yeah, actually, it was kind of my idea. I kind of told Jeannie, I was like, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't you send me an email telling me what we need, and then I'll forward that email from myself, and, to see if we can get copies of everything where we can figure all this out and eliminate it. Because, at this point, we want to prove that that suspicion we had was wrong and that everything's really okay. So she did. She forwarded me an email. And
I'm still on states 312. What's been bait stamped is 2374. And is this the email that you just described that Jeannie forwarded to you requesting the documentation for the Ferris fees?
It is. Underneath where, Jeannie texts there or emails there and tells me exactly what she needs and kind of is very specific.
And what date was that? I'm sorry.
That was May 27th at 11:40 a.m.
All right. And then going over to 2373 in the same exhibit, is this the email right here that you then forwarded to Vicki Lyman at Chris Wilson's office?
Yes, it was. I forwarded that email that Jeannie sent me on the same day, May 27th. And I knew she was on vacation, but I went ahead and sent this to her. And then when I knew she had time to get back from vacation, I sent this follow-up on the strand on June 2nd and requesting it again.
All right. And did you get a response email from Vicki Lyman and Chris Wilson's office?
Yeah, she said she didn't, this doesn't involve her, and she said she would forward it to Chris. And we were basically just asking for copies of everything where we could clear this matter up and, like I said, we wanted our suspicion to be wrong.
They're going to need some more candies. Alex going through them like they're water. She sounds like a really good employee. I think this firm had several really good employees. That's how they got to be as big as they were.
Is that item already in evidence?
Jury, get a break? What's happening here?
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 440 to your testimony. And again, just tell me, first of all, without going into any content, whether or not you recognize that particular document.
I do. It's a text strand between myself and Vicki Lyman.
All right. And is this, what is the date on that particular text strand?
June 2nd, and then it runs into June 3rd.
And is that 2021?
Yes, I'm sorry, 2021.
And is this a text thread where y'all are discussing the things that you described here today?
Yeah, I told her I just, don't mention anything.
Hold on just real quick.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Y'all are describing what we're talking about here today?
That is correct.
All right, Your Honor, at this time I would move Stage 440 into evidence.
Your Honor, object on hearsay grounds. It doesn't fall within an exception to the hearsay rule.
See the document.
Yes, sir.
The witness hands the judge the document. That's awesome. Where's your bailiff, Your Honor? Let's see if this comes in. If it's not an exception, there's a hearsay objection. I think the judge might sustain
Sustained
this.
objection.
Yep, sustained. Boom.
Did you ultimately text Vicki on that particular day?
I did. I told her that I gave her time to get back from vacation, and I just basically texted her with my concerns and told her how stressed out I had been over this situation and how I was hoping my suspicion was wrong, but I was really stressed out. And unfortunately, my daughter, me and Vicki had talked on the phone. Vicki had called me as well, and unfortunately, my daughter had overheard me too, so she instantly got really worried for me. And my daughter said, Mom, you need to go ahead and get your resume because once you turn all this in, they may fire you. So she was very concerned for me.
And this latest email on the screen, that was June 2nd, 2021, is that correct?
That's correct.
You recall June 7th, 2021?
I do.
Was that a Monday?
It was.
Were you at work that day?
I was.
Did the defendant come to work that day?
He did. He came in probably around lunchtime. I can't remember if he came in before lunch or after, but somewhere in that time frame.
Ivan, it's the same event, just from a different vantage point. Did you see Jeannie Seconder
that day?
I did. Jeannie had already told me that she was going to talk to Alec about the Ferris e-checks that were missing. She was going to go and talk to him about them that day, and so she asked me to let her know when he got into the office. So when he got to the office, I reached out to her to let her know.
And did she come up to your area?
She did, and we have open style offices, no doors on the secretary's offices. So she had to pass by me to get Alec's office. So I saw her when she was walking past.
Did she give you any look when she walked past?
She did. It was kind of just like that. just kind of a raised eyebrow, like wish me luck, here goes nothing kind of look. Like
here goes nothing.
Hope, because we were both just, like I said, wanting to
nice working with you type look.
Get answers
about what?
About those missing checks and figure out what was going on.
Where did she go after she gave you that look?
I heard Alex's doors closed, so I assumed in his office to talk to him.
This is what day?
This is June 7th, 2021.
Did she come out after?
She did, and she didn't stop. She just hurried by my desk and she went on about her business.
Did you have any conversation yourself about the Ferris fees with the defendant that day?
Don't recall having any discussion with him on that day. At that point, I'd turned, Jeannie had everything, and it was kind of in her hands.
What time do you think you left work that day?
I left at 5:15 that day.
Is that your normal time?
It's not. I typically work later. Alec always tend to work nights, and me and Christy tend to kind of adapt to his schedule a little bit and work a little later than 5 o'clock. Most of the time, we were there till 5:30, 6 o'clock.
When you left the office on June 7th, 2021 at 5:15, was the defendant still there?
He was.
Did you go home? Eventually went home?
Yes.
Just a normal night?
Yeah, I went straight home that night.
Did that change at some point?
Yes, it definitely. My phone was on silence, and I slept through a bunch of text messages and calls. I woke up in the middle of the night, and my phone was just full, and I was like, what is going on? And so I'm looking through the text messages. They don't make a lot of sense. I see I have a voicemail message from Randy Murdaugh. And so I checked the voicemail, and I could tell he was upset and crying, and he said, Annette, please call me when you can. It doesn't matter what time. And so I don't remember what time it was, but it was sometime in the middle of the night, and I called him. And he told me, well, when he answered the phone, he was upset, obviously, and I said, Randy, what's wrong? And he said, it's bad, Annette, it's real bad. And I said, oh no, Mr. Randolph passed? And he said, no, it's not Dad, it's Maggie and Paul. And I said, what? And he said, they've been shot and murdered. And I said, what? And it was very overwhelming. We both cried on the phone with each other, and obviously the first thing I did was say, oh my God, how is Alec? How is he? Is he okay? Where's Buster? Is Buster okay? I was very concerned. I had a million thoughts running in my head. I was like, are you guys safe? Is this something aimed at the entire family? And I was very, very worried about Alec and Buster and Randy and his family and the entire Murdaugh family. So it was very overwhelming.
Over the 9 years of working closely for the defendant, did you also get to know his family, Maggie and Paul and Buster?
I did.
Is this firm pretty tight-knit?
Yes.
What was the reaction of the people in the firm to this terrible news?
There was two reactions. First was scared. We were like, please lock our doors. We're scared. Who is this aimed at? Is it a client retaliating? Is it, aimed at Alec? Is it aimed at the firm? We didn't know. We just had so many questions, no answers, a million thoughts running through our heads. We were just there, supporting each other and helping one another through this grieving process, and at the same time, we were very protective over Alec and Randy. We wouldn't let them leave the office if strange cars were driving around. We would say, don't walk out yet. There's a white car that's went around 3 times. I mean, we were in complete mama bear mode. We didn't want them to go out and have to talk to reporters. We didn't want them to have to run out and run into anybody, and we were scared for them. We were very protective. I mean, anything suspicious out the window, we were on high alert.
Said, what kind of mode?
Mama bear mode.
Mama bear protecting who?
Protecting Alec and Randy.
Did the law firm community rally to the aid
There's a
of the
lawsuit.
defendant?
They did.
Was that the primary focus of on everybody's mind in the aftermath?
Absolutely.
Were you at all concerned about finding out what happened to these Ferris fees after that happened?
What Ferris fees?
What Ferris fees?
Yeah, what Ferris fees? And that was the furthest thing on my mind.
In fact, was that the last time you really thought about it in any aspect until September of 2021?
It is, yes, sir.
And you were more focused on helping this defendant and his family in the aftermath of this tragedy that had happened?
Yes. And everybody was so supportive. I mean, some of the associate attorneys stepped up and they came up to me and Christy and said, hey, you know, if you need anything over the next few weeks, you need us to review a file for you, get something else, sign it and get it out the door, we're here for you guys 100%. So it wasn't, you know, we were supportive, and then we had other folks in the office that were coming up to us, supporting us as well, because they knew we were at a standstill. What do we do? You know, because we knew obviously he was not going to be the same and not be himself for quite a while.
I asked you earlier about the boat case. Before the murders, when the boat case happened, had there been some reaction and backlash in the community against the defendant and his family
This is
after
Alex,
the boat case?
paralegal
Yes, it was very
assistant in the
difficult
office.
because Hampton being a small town, we all know each other and we all know both sides for the most part. For instance, Mallory Beach, her father is my first cousin. So Mallory Beach, I was kind of felt like I was in between a rock and a hard place because, you know, her family is, you know, beyond heartbroken over the loss of her. And I know some of them didn't like the idea that I was still working at the firm, but I was still, to me, it was two separate entities. This is my job, this was my family, and I had to keep them separate. I didn't want any part of the boat wreck case. I didn't want to know any details or anything because, like I said, I was keeping my family life and my work life separate.
After the murders, you said the law firm community, though, rallied to Alex's aid, correct?
Absolutely, everybody.
Did the larger community do as well
Yes, they did.
after the murders?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that after those murders happened, what Ferris fees? They were the farthest thing from your mind, correct?
Yes, sir.
When did they come back to your attention?
September 2nd, it was a Thursday in the afternoon, and I was looking for a file in the file cabinet, and I was unable to locate it. And lots of times if, you know, Alex talking to a client on the phone, he'll yell for a file and we'll take it to him. So I was like, oh, it's probably in his office. So I went to his office to look for the file, and when I found it, I picked it up, and when I did, a check kind of floated like a feather to the ground. And when I bent over to pick it up, I saw the check and what it said and had on it, and I instantly became very upset because it happened to be one of the checks from the Ferris case that didn't exist.
And what did you see on the check that let you know that stuck out in your mind?
It was from Chris Wilson's office. It was written to Richard Alexander Murdaugh, and at the bottom it said Ferris fees. And it was dated March.
And so what did you realize at that point?
I said, he's been lying this whole time. He had these funds, he lied to me. Oh, that feeling in the back of my mind was correct. Unfortunately, he did take these funds, because when I flipped the check over, I also saw that he had deposited by mobile deposit, and I can't remember if he signed the back of the check or if it just said mobile deposit only.
Let me show you stage 313, see if you recognize that. It's already in evidence.
Yes, sir. That's the check that I found on September 2nd.
All right. And if you flick up one side or the other side.
Yeah, it's got his signature, Bank of America deposit only.
You recognize that writing as the defendant's?
Yes, it is.
that check fluttered down, you picked it up?
I did.
You saw that? Where did you take it? Did you take it anywhere?
Yeah, I went back to my desk, and you can imagine all the emotions that I was feeling at this point. You know, I was hurt, I was angry. I just was beside myself, and I was a bit enraged too, because I asked him so many times. There were so many times that I felt like we could have clarified this and got it taken care of, but here it is from March to September, and I find this check that supposedly did not exist. And so I went to my desk, I called Jeannie, and I was like, I just found something. And she said, oh, shit, what did you find? And I said, are you busy? And she said, come on over. And I went over and closed her door and threw the check at her, and she was like, is this one? I said, yeah, that's one of the fares checks that doesn't exist.
Fell like a feather.
Was Jeannie
Harps
doing
were heard.
anything else, or start doing anything else when you came down with that check?
I didn't know it until I took her the check, but when I took her the check, she was like, yeah, I just ran a report yesterday, and she said, one of the attorneys is gonna call Michael Gunn later today. And I said, well, what do you mean? And that's when she told me that she thinks there's some more stuff too. Back to my suspicion with Hirschberger and Thomas Moore, she pulled a report and she found out that we may have other issues of stolen funds. But I was not aware of any of that. I didn't know that she was looking into it again. I didn't know any of that until I took her the check, and she said she had just started doing stuff within the last few days.
Within a few days of this happening, what happened to the defendant's employment at the law firm?
He was fired the next day.
And did the law firm engage in a review process to determine the extent of any alleged?
Yes, we've had months upon months of going through all of the files and finding, just following the numbers and making notes on everything, and lots of hours, lots of manpower involved in this process of putting everything together.
Hey, Jimmy, she's got a lot of information here.
In awe of how much was happening, and we had no idea about it.
And without going through all the exhibits that were gone through with Jeannie Seconder, but she was the one, or one of the central ones in doing that review, is that correct?
Of course, yes.
There's around 100 charges pending.
A lot of those disbursements for the fake forge account, those were disbursements that the defendant told you to put on there?
That's correct.
Are those, a lot of those disbursements, one where he corrected you and said, no, don't put Forge Consulting, put Forge?
Yes, they were.
A lot of those checks, ones where he said, oh, I'm going to see Michael Gunn later, I'll take the check myself.
Yeah, they were all for him.
Mac, this was her job. She was the one who tracked these payments. It was her job to make sure money got to the place it was supposed to be. So she's not being nosy. She's being thorough. That's what she was paid to do. She was so good at it that Alec would do a lot of what he did on times when she was off. Yeah, I think there's 106 financial charges. 99 of them have the possibility of life without parole in prison. He's facing a lot of financial charges, most of which we're hearing right now.
I'll show you what's been marked as Exhibit 441. Again, without going into the contents, tell me if you recognize that document.
Yes, this text message that Alex sent to me and Christy on September 26th, when he was in 2021, when he was in rehab, is my understanding.
All right. Your Honor, this time I'd offer States 441 into evidence, I believe without objection. No objection.
I don't think they're going to use this trial as evidence in that trial, but they're obviously the evidence is evidence.
Your Honor, I apologize.
A lot of it will
cross
cross
over.
over.
We do have the 403 objection and subject to the court's prior ruling on this.
I haven't seen the exhibit, I don't.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have you go to the jury room for a break. Please do not discuss the case.
Okay, jury's going to step out. We're going to stay here. I think we're going to hear the 403 objection. The judge is going to look at the evidence, decide whether or not it comes in. Just trying to see who's in the courtroom here. Buster's girlfriend does not appear to be there, unless that's her on the other side of the lady next to Buster, behind the gentleman in the red maroon shirt, the suit coat. Are we allowed to discuss the case? Of course we are. AJ, of course we are. Discuss to your heart's content. This is all 99 trials in one. Yeah, it's crazy. There's so much. I think that there's too much. There's too much of this information in here. It's distracting the jury, I think. Because, as just an average person, I'm focused more on the financials than the murder right now. I remember a guy I worked for used to say when he wanted me to make fake invoices, got to put shoes on feet, put presents under the tree.
Yes, sir, Mr. Griffin.
Just preserving our prior objections on 404B evidence under 404B and 403. And it's nothing new. I just forgot to state no additional objections than what we've already had in this line of testimony, this is the same line of testimony of financial misconduct. That's all.
Can't he just, so it was a running objection, and he just excused the jury?
Waters. And I just clarified, I think, with defense counsel that he was not adding a specific 403 objection to that. It's just the prior objection. However, this is a text from the defendant to this witness in this particular instance. Certainly, it can be read, and there's no hearsay issue because obviously it's a statement of a party opponent, and it certainly also is relevant because it can certainly be read in the nature of an admission to the various things that are at issue in these particular proceedings. And for that reason, there's certainly the probative value of an admission is certainly, I would argue, is the probative value of that is not substantially outweighed by the danger of any unfair prejudice.
Hey, Ola, that's a confession. I think we're going to have to.
It introduces another issue, the issue of drug use, and I think the witness testified that he was in rehab. Is that what you said? That he was in rehab and sent an email, and
Judge's legal mind is working here. Had a little squirrel moment.
Squirrel!
And just want to be clear from the defense, the part of it, of the testimony that establishes through this witness that he was in rehab, that is not a basis for your objection.
It is now.
We do have.
Now that you've brought it up.
Yes, we do object to evidence of his drug use and to be included in this, and we would ask that that document be redacted to the extent it references rehab at this time.
It doesn't specifically mention drug use. So have you all review the exhibit and tell me if you have no objection based on the fact that he sent it while in rehab, then it's admissible as far as your prior bad acts objection.
I think Creighton's going to win this one. Good morning, Dick. Glad you can join us. Sorry to wake you this early prior to lunch, but you're going to have to read this paper. Let's see what they're going to do here. I think Creighton's pretty confident on this one. Look at the stance. Hand on his hip. He's just waiting. He's got this one in the pocket. Court reporter is using her other arm today for that device. I think the speaking device she uses.
We don't have any additional objections, Your Honor. We would, because this does raise an additional character issue asked of the court. We ask that the court give, additional limiting instruction at some point in time about that.
How does the character in that he saying he's getting better, or what part addresses character?
He says I'm getting better every day, and I mean that's clear from that he's in rehab.
She's using her steno mask and playing Candy Crush at the same time, which is
Your Honor, I mean, he doesn't expressly say
next
that.
level
I would
skills.
point out that the issue of pills has already come up a few times in this trial. I'm not trying to go there, but it is, when we talk about 404 and res geste, it is kind of part and parcel of a lot of things. I mean, even the defense has examined, I believe, Ms. Seconder on the issue of pills. And on top of that, you know, we had Chris Wilson, who testified in camera, who will also testify here today. You know, one of the things he says when he had that confrontation with the defendant on the the afternoon, I believe, of September 4th.
We're going to hear Chris Wilson today. Is that what he said?
I've been stealing money, and I've been hooked on pills for a while. So this is a bridge I think we have to cross at some point. The state is not trying to gild the lily with that, but at least you know, with these various witnesses, it is part of what they're being said. As far as that specific exhibit, though,
This judge hates
there's no express reference
do those
to
whole
drugs
motions
or
in the
anything
limine
like that.
way
It
ahead of
certainly
time.
is in the nature
He
of
likes to
admission,
address it
and
as it
again,
comes
I
up
think for
during
that
the
reason,
trial.
It's very probative and very relevant and admissible for that reason.
That's why we have all these arguments happening in the middle of trial and not in
Well, my concern
pre-trial
obviously
hearings.
is that we do not, or that I do not allow testimony involving these admissions to bleed so far into the character 403 that it has the effect of undoing the 404, 403 analysis. A lot of testimony has come in unobjected to that touches upon the defendant's character. That's why I want to be clear on what the objection is.
Your Honor, just from the state's perspective, we are trying to, you know, walk that line. I mean, there's a lot of the financial stuff we're not even seeking to admit.
Good point, Andy.
That, you know, we've limited it to things that had that connection that we discussed in camera. So, you know, I'm not trying to gild the lily.
I'm not sure what that means.
That's a phrase I learned from Chief Justice Toll over the years. I guess that means, you know, piling on, I guess, is a way to do that. And again, I don't have, you know, we recognize the situation we're in and trying obviously not to get out over our skis from what the admissibility of.
Now we're getting out over our
court has already
skis,
ruled on.
gilding the lily.
I'll ponder it while we take our break, and we'll be in recess for about 15 minutes. Ma'am, you may step down. Do not discuss your testimony.
All right, so the judge is going to think this one over. He's basically saying, I made this ruling, and if we allow too much in, it's basically like undoing the ruling. So he's going to ponder this and see whether or not this comes in. At some point, one of the witnesses is going to talk about the pills. They're going to talk about his drug addiction. It's probably going to be Chris Wilson this afternoon, is what prosecution told us today. But we'll see. Got a little bit of a break here. Let's see. Gild the lily, and we're out over our skis. So I believe that's like it would be the snow version of Hang 10. Is that what that saying is? We might need Weather Watch, who's recently skied, to explain that for us. What does it mean to be out over your skis, or skiing beyond your skis or something? I'm not sure where he was going there. Judge is going to take a little break and ponder some things. Way too many cliches this morning. Maybe a snack run happening right now. Judge is refilling the water bottle. What if you're over your skis holding a gilded lily, says Chandra. Now that's probably what they're getting at. How many jars of SMB pickles could you get for the money Alex stole? Well, we can ask. Ready? Let's see. Hey Siri, what is 10 million divided by 3.84?
It's approximately 2,604,166.6666.
Not including tax, basically all of them. I could buy all the pickles in the world with that money. Getting ahead of ourselves, out over our skis. Thank you, Jeff. I think that's the actual meaning that he's going for. Chandra as well. Casey Jones, appreciate that. I had not heard the gilding the lily one. That was, I guess, a lily by itself is a very decorative, beautiful flower, and gilding it is like coating it in silver type thing. It's already beautiful. Why do you need to make it more beautiful type thing? I don't understand. Is that one right? That is a lot of pickles. It's all the pickles. And now I'm thinking about that. Thank you. Who asked that? Who did that? Agnes Sky. Now I'm thinking about having all the pickles. Oh, man. Okay, you need to lean back a bit on the skis unless you want to face plant. I'll tell you, I was on skis. I know I lived in Utah, but I was on skis one time. And it was on a little hill in back of my house. And it was the first time, and I got on the skis, and the skis just started moving. I mean, I thought I was going to have to give it a push, but I sort of got on the slope and pointed them downhill, and they just started going. And one ski was going left, and the other ski was going right. Unfortunately, the left ski was going right, and the right ski was going left, and they crossed over each other. And I became entangled in this like pretzel-like condition, where the skis still wanted to keep going straight, but my legs prevented them from moving any further. And I could not move. And so it was in that position I just slowly toppled like a felled tree. And I remember my knee screaming out in pain at me as I was doing that. Like, I don't bend this direction. But nothing broke at that point. That's not the reason why my knee still hurts right now. But that's my skiing experience. I have a lot more experience on a snowboard than on skis because my feet don't do the same thing when I'm skiing. I have a hard time keeping them lined up. Folks do not say gilding the lily a lot these days. Can we get the gild the lily soundbite? We're going to need a lot of these sound bites. A duh sounds like a good one as well. How many times have you heard duh in court? 2 million jars of pickles. Wow, that's more than this week's worth. A little bit. I did the math as well, and I think that's a week and a half, roughly, by my math. Let's see. Lifetime supply of pickles. Can you promise us we're not going to follow AM's money trails if they happen? We can only hear this one time. Money trials, sorry, not trails. I don't think we're going to follow Alex money trials. I just, no. There's so much other stuff to follow. And the money is interesting the first time through. But imagine having to sit through this again for 99 different charges. Just reading the charges is going to be like the final days of the Darrell Brooks trial, and the judge reading that huge stack of papers.
There's a lawsuit.
It's pretty telling. Anyone who worked for Alex thought he had his butt on his shoulders, but his partners who made money from his art of BS thought he was a great guy. He was good at it. He brought the money in. Unfortunately, he didn't bring all the money in that he was supposed to. He took some of it for himself. So gild the lily, let's see here. Jeff H. once again with the explanation. To improve or decorate something that's already perfect and therefore spoil it. To further adorn something that is already beautiful. Okay. This reminds me of Goofy Learns to Ski. I think actually, AJ, they stole that plot for the movie line from my experience. I might actually have a lawsuit because they took my story without my permission. So maybe I'll file a lawsuit on that one and sue everybody. Everybody who's watched it, everyone who laughed, I get to sue them for damages. I like to think that gilding the lily was used more often decades ago, but maybe that's just me. I pizza'd when I should have French fried. That's what I did. I did it wrong. Much of this financial crimes would not have been able to happen without banking bro Russell. Yes, he had partners that made this happen, that helped this happen, and I think they got paid well. I live just down the canyon from the resorts. I started young, especially since my dad was in mountain rescue. So Katrina, you know all about skiing. I've got a buddy, actually, the husband of one of my coworkers. She passed away, but a great family that skis, and his son skis as well. And they're incredible. They go up to the very top, like the tip top of the mountain. And then they find like a cliff that's impossible to get down. And they're like, hey, let's do this one. And they jump off and ski down and make it look effortless. They love the backcountry, fresh powder, steep hills stuff. It scares me to death just watching them on video. But they have a lot of fun doing it. He refers to it as going to church. It's going up to the mountains. So that's when I'm close to God, is when I'm skiing. Let's see. That's a lot of sodium. It's like getting the cart before the horse. There's another one. Let's get all these sayings all grouped together. What else? What's another way we could say this? Just notice a speaker on the floor and have no idea where you got it. Who's got a speaker on the floor? Who's got Lil Miss, your dog has a speaker. He found a speaker. That's awesome. Free speaker. Most pets bring like half-dead wild animals. Like cats will bring mice and stuff and spiders into the house, but your dog brings speakers. It's a bonus. I would raise the price of pickles and sell them, make my money back, and buy spicy ones. Yes, we are following the money trials already. I realize that. Wait for it. That's not lost on me. I wish we could get back to the murders because I think there's more to talk about there. But I just clipped RA in a pretzel-like condition. I mean, I do see a reason to say that in so many scenarios. Great. That's going to go in Discord and on Facebook, I'm sure. Rowdy wants her fair share of pickles. Out over one's skis, thinking or acting impetuously and preemptively before the reality or truth of something is revealed. Okay. Weather watch, that's a great definition. So that's basically getting ahead of ourselves. But that's a more technical terminology, more precise terminology, I think. Is that like closing the barn door after the horses left? Similar but different, I think. My 9-year-old granddaughter crawled all the way down the ski hill on all fours, skis on. That would be me, Karen. I would be like dragging my feet along the ground and in a weird shape, sliding down inch by inch down the mountain. What's on the lunch menu? Doritos now. Distracted. Doritos are on the menu. I do have some spicy maple bourbon pickles left over. May do a sandwich. Mrs. R.A. makes some amazing homemade wheat bread, and I think there's another loaf left. If the kids have not devoured it in this morning, then I'll probably make a sandwich. If you're out of your skis, all the more reason to skate your lane. Putting the cart before the horse, two different meanings entirely. Speaking of skiing, anyone watch the video of the skier being chased down the hill by a bear? Oh my goodness. I get, like, Katrina, I have an unnatural fear of being eaten by a bear. This is from somebody who was in the scouting program as a youth, who was a scout leader myself. I've spent more nights out camping than most people do in their lives. And I love camping. I love being outdoors. I am scared to death of being eaten by a bear. And watching that guy ski down the hill with that bear just running after him, like if he skis at all like me, right? All he has to do is not be able to make a turn, which I cannot. And that bear now has fast food. It's just their lunch is served type thing. That makes me nervous. The other one that also makes me nervous, from out of Utah, I believe, American Fork Canyon. There's a video of a guy who went running up the canyon and ran into a mountain lion, a mama mountain lion that was not too happy and was stalking him. He was walking backwards for like 3/4 of a mile, and this cat is just coming closer and closer and charging and bluffing, and oh my goodness, mountain lions scare me as well. But you never see them; they come from behind and boom, you're gone. This guy just happened to catch it on video. All my eggs in one basket. There's another one. Don't put your dead horse in front of the cart and beat it before it hatches. Charlie, I think you nailed all of them in one. I fell off the chair lift and slid halfway down the hill. Is that considered skiing? Tish, no. I also have a fear of falling off chairlifts. You guys are just triggering all my fears this morning. My friend has a video of me going face first into the snow. I'll email it to you so you can play. Weather Watch is hopefully this from the weekend, right? Face first into powder. Can't wait to see it. Let's see. New movie, Cocaine Bear, based loosely on a true story. I'm a bit behind, but I told someone yesterday she was putting the cart before her horse. Yeah, but nobody's said the gild the lily thing. None of you have said that like in the last 10 years, right? Wish you would make a deal. What's the point of trying this case? He's away for multiple life sentences anyway. Waste of taxpayers' dollars. Casey Jones, I will tell you this. I'm about ready to make a prediction in this case and seal it in a envelope and date it and stamp it and do all the things that the evidence technicians do, and then open it up after the case has been decided, because I think I'm ready to call what's going to happen here. I really do. I think even without the defense presenting any evidence, I think I can call the outcome. Have you seen the bear documentary, The Bear Man? No. Those ones don't bother me. I've seen the guys that have like the pet bears and that, live with the bears type thing. That doesn't bother me as much. They seem stupid to me. It's the ones who are, messing with wildlife or just out in nature and run into the wildlife. That's nature's going to do what it does, and nature gets fed, and you're on the menu type thing. Ari sounds like ASMR when it comes to bears. Haven't gilded the lily since the last blue moon. Let's see. I say gild the lily, but I also talk like Jimmy Stewart, hot dog and holy mackerel. When will you give us a verdict poll to vote on High Speed Drifter? I want to wait till after defense goes. I really do. I think we need to sort of treat it the same way the jury does. I think might have some action in the court. Somebody at least kicked the tripod a little bit. Looking at this, this is the video, the Snapchat video of Alex Murdaugh that Law and Crime were showing. So somebody kicked the tripod here. It's moving, but the judge isn't back yet, so we'll hold tight just for a minute. Okay. Casey Jones says, sorry, I was referring to DB upcoming trial on self-representation. What was it talking about, Casey? Let's see. That one, about taking a deal. What's the point of trying this case? He's always he's away for multiple life sentences anyway. I thought you were talking about his Alex Murdaugh's financial crimes and the multiple life sentences that he's expecting, or that we're expecting for him on that front. Because I do think he's going to be found guilty of those crimes. Look at the cell. Just sent you a picture. Kind of funny, very coincidental. Let me check it out. So, Carl, just 1 second here. Looks like a black bear on the side of the road. Walked to my driveway and look what I saw 1 hour ago. Oh my goodness. Stay inside. Lock the doors. I've had this nightmare. You close the door and the door's too small and it doesn't fit. It can't latch and there's a bear on the outside or a lion or something. Tell me you guys have had the same nightmare. I know this. I know that you all have. It's not just me. Black bear in the driveway. I'd be happier if it were a black bear than a grizzly. A grizzly would really scare me. Alex is a gambling man. That's why he's game for a trial. What time was the Snapchat vid and what time were the murders? That video was about an hour or so before the murders. Maybe 2 hours before the murders. We think the murders happened, we know they happened after 8:44 and before about 9 o'clock. Based on the phone information of when they stopped moving, when he stopped responding, things like that. So we know that's when it happened. Little Miss, I tried to send Samantha Terry a picture of the demon puppy, and it wouldn't go through to her. I'll see if I can post it on screen here if we have just a little bit more of a break. The judge isn't back yet, so let's see. Let's see. This is just for Samantha Terry's benefit here, so hold tight just 1 second. I'm trying to switch it over to my switcher. There it is. Show and finder. Just got the video from Weather Watch about the face plant. Can't wait to see that one as well. Okay, so here's the demon puppy that you hear about in chat so much, right there. This is for Samantha Terry. Little Miss, there's demon puppy, always chewing on something, cables, speakers, something like that. A few of you might have a fur baby that likes that, chewing things as well. Black bears are usually shy; they just want garbage. Yeah, that's true. Although a black bear did kill a kid a few years back. Dragged him out of his tent. It's very uncharacteristic for a black bear, but His family was up camping, also up American Fork Canyon, same place that mountain lion thing happened. Has he not pled guilty to financial crimes? Golden Mom, he did plead guilty to some, but he still has like 99 others that are out there. I think he pled guilty in one case. My father used to say, 2 more legs and you'd look like a tiger. Have you heard that one? Like Trigger? 2 more legs and you'd look like Trigger? I have not heard that one. Last month was on my porch, stole a 40-pound bag of dog food. Oh, he's come back for more dog food, Carl. That's the thing. Bears actually do love dog food. They have an amazing sense of smell. Are they at lunch? Girl next door? No, they are not. Judge is taking a little brief break, probably refilling his mug, and also he's putting some thought into this objection that the state has about some evidence that may insinuate that Alex Murdaugh had a drug issue. That's all we know about it right now. So the state objected. The judge is like, are you sure you're not going to object about this as well? And they're like, oh, yeah, that part too. And now he's going to give it some thought. But I think we are going to hear from Chris Wilson today that the Alex Murdaugh had a drug issue, and that might be the first time they really, the jury gets to hear that. Tabitha has 3 to 5 week old puppies right now chewing everything. Can I come fix my work servers? It keeps bumping everyone who's connected via VPN off. So is everybody remotely working, or do you use an internal VPN? What's happening there? It's bumping everyone, so it's definitely, I'd say that's the common problem. Doesn't look demonic to me. That's how they get you, Denise. They look sweet, and then all of a sudden they come from nowhere and rawr. Whoa! I just got bars and tone on one of my other feeds. I'm gonna make sure it didn't come through here. So just 1 second here. Weather Watch has a pup pick as well. Let me take a peek at that one. Okay, we've got another picture coming in from Weather Watch, whose dog fell asleep during the trial. It was a little slow for the dog. Here we go. There it is. This is, let me just make sure I get the name right here. Oh, I don't know your dog's name. Just the prosecution put her to sleep is all he said. But we have a lot of pets that listen to this, and especially when we do a police chase and the sirens and stuff. I know some of you guys like that. Okay, still nothing from the courtroom. A demon puppy eats cable speakers and small neighborhood children. Josh sent me it's the Grizzly Man. Oh my goodness. Just the picture that you sent me from the Grizzly Man movie. I'm not going to sleep well tonight, Josh. Thank you for that. My colleague is going to get off one way or another on the murder charges, hung, acquittal, etc. He gets convicted of some federal charges and doesn't get a long sentence. The country will be in shock. Samantha Terry says, thanks so much. I've waited months for that. Sorry about that. Okay, we're back. Let's see what the judge says about this. Lots of incoming pup pics.
To this exhibit number 441, I find that it is admissible under Rule 801 by a party opponent. However, the portion of it that says, when I get out of here is problematic. If the defense would like that portion of it redacted, that would suggest that he's in rehab, and when he gets out of here, he's going to do this or that. We can redact that portion. If the defense does not wish to have that portion redacted, the exhibit will come in its entirety.
My burner phone is going nuts with dog pictures from
Your
all
Honor,
of you.
here's where we find ourselves on the defense side. His drug addiction and drug use is frankly res gestae to the alleged criminal conduct on the financial fraud. And it's hard for us on the defense side, and it didn't really get flushed out in our in-camera hearing because they didn't put evidence up of this, but it's something that we all knew. But it is part and parcel of the financial crimes, and it explains why he did what he did. And
so they want
it does,
to have their cake and eat it too? Is that what they're saying?
In a way, pile on and make it even more prejudicial. And so when considering that, Your Honor, what we would ask is we want to renew our motion, object to all the financial crimes. Now that we know drug use is coming in the midst of it, because it is res gestae, it does tell the entire story, and we would ask the court to strike all the financial testimony the court's heard thus far, and let's proceed with the murder trial.
That motion is denied.
Thank you.
But the portion,
the court to strike.
The court admits this document and will redact that portion.
Why don't you just throw a mistrial in there as well and ask for everything?
You want to redact the portion that suggests that he was in rehab. You says it's part of the res gestae. It may even be part of your defense. I don't know. The state is offering evidence, and
we're not asking it to be redacted. We would request that whenever we get in these 404B witness testimony that the court provide a limiting instruction. Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to give a limiting instruction prior to every witness's testimony or in the middle of every witness's testimony. The court has given the limiting instruction twice and will do so at the end of the case as well. And there may be other instances, but not at every juncture where evidence is being offered.
Yes, sir.
All right, so this exhibit is admitted.
Without the redaction. Admitted without the redaction.
You may bring the jury.
That's going to be interesting. I think the defense at least could have got the redaction in there, but now they said we sort of need that information. We're going to present it, so it might be part of their defense. I've got the phone is full, you guys. I've got dog pictures for days now. You guys are filling up the burner phone with puppy pics. Your Honor, we demand pickles on both desks for snacking reasons. Thal, good to have you here today. Weather Watch is here as well, which is, it's probably Weather Watch's fault that Thal is here. I just got a pony pic as well. I think we've shown some pony pics for you, Laura. Let's see. Oh, not these ones. That's a lot of them. Okay, we might have to show some pictures during a break. Let's see. Dick moved. Where did he go? Where did Dick go? Oh, he's over on the other side. So Alex exposed to the prosecution on that side. There's nobody there to take a bullet for him in case the AG, decides to settle things once and for all. The judge is over this. I think they will use drug use as a defense in some ways. Charlie Peterson. Charlie, do you have any pets? I'm curious. Asking for a friend. Defense isn't asking for a lot. Just dismiss everything and have a retrial. Yeah, that's it. And just rule all the evidence that makes it Alec look bad not be admissible. You can't eat your cake and have it too. You can have your cake, and you certainly can also eat your cake.
Thank you. The objection is overruled. The exhibit is admitted.
May it please the court, Your Honor.
Thanks, Thal.
Just very quickly, when we left off states 441, now admitted into evidence, this was a text you received from the defendant, is that right?
That's correct.
And the date on that is September 26th?
September 26th, yes.
Is that 2021?
It is.
Is this the text of that text that the defendant sent to you?
Thanks,
is.
Charlie.
I only have a couple more questions for you. Before I get to the end, one question I wanted to ask you was, what was the defendant's cell phone usage like?
He was always on his phone, always on his cell phone, always on his office phone. He would quit one conversation and grab another. Sometimes he would have both phones to his ear.
Would it be unusual for the defendant to go anywhere without a cell phone with him?
Absolutely.
He's like, yeah, she's right. She's right.
I want to play for you what's been admitted to evidence as States 297. Can we have the this input, please?
I think he's got an identical chair in Chambers, the exact same chair. And he goes from one to the other.
Get it! Get that! Quick, Cash. Come on. Quick! It's okay. Come here. Come here, Cash. Shit. Come on. Post it. Cash. Hey, he's got a bird in his mouth! Hey, Bubba. It's a guinea. This is a chicken. Come here, Cash. Cash. Quick.
Do you recognize any voices from that video?
I do. I hear three voices.
And tell me who you hear.
I hear Paul Murdaugh, Maggie Murdaugh, and Alex Murdaugh.
And how sure are you?
I'm 100% sure.
Can I have the Elmo one more time, please?
I'm sorry. Oh.
She's like, I don't have the Elmo.
Going back to States 441.
No. Don't do it, guys. Don't take the bait.
Just that one sentence starting where my finger's pointing that the defendant sent to you.
The worst part is knowing I did the most damage to those I love the most.
Thank you.
Cross-examination.
The woman on the stand is Alex,
Good morning.
paralegal. Worked in the office with him very closely, especially with the financials and the checks for all the cases he handled.
Ms. Griswold, were you hired by Alec to work at the law firm?
I was hired by the firm, but he was in one of the meetings and it was my understanding that I was going to be working for him.
Right. And so you interviewed with him?
I did.
And you've been working, well, you worked with him for?
About 9 years.
9 years.
Yes, sir.
And 1 second, I left my. My understanding is that you moved back to Hampton because your father was ill?
My father was ill, yes, sir.
And then, so you moved your family back, you and your husband and?
Right. My husband and my daughter and I moved to be closer to my dad and help my mom with him.
And you got a job working at the law firm, and did you work exclusively for Mr. Alex Murdaugh?
Most, yes. I mean, there was other attorneys that I might do some work for here and there, but primarily Alex was who my attorney was.
And if you needed to take time off for personal matters, would you just have to run it by Alex?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And And he put family first at work, did he not?
Most of the time, yes.
And he encouraged you to put your family first.
Absolutely.
And I think your your husband had a heart attack. He was in the hospital for quite some time.
Yes, for 5 weeks before he ultimately passed away.
And I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
But Alec encouraged you to do all you needed to do to care for him and don't worry about work. Isn't that right?
Yes, he did.
And you didn't miss a paycheck.
I sure didn't.
Is he a good person to work for?
It was hit or miss. I cared about him. I respected him. I loved him. You know, you can't be that close and work with somebody without having, developing feelings for them and their family members.
Right.
But it was hard to work for him sometimes. He was a bit erratic, and for all the respect and love I had for him, it was still very difficult to work for him.
I think your description was he was like a Tasmanian devil that would come through at the end of the day.
He would.
And he was frenetic.
Yes.
Okay, and but people came to him if they needed something, right?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And so he had a lot of people coming, and did he ever say no to anybody's request?
He didn't know the word no.
Right. And well, he would want to schedule his appointments around his family's commitments, wouldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like if the Buster and Paul had baseball season, he'd be sure to block all that out off his calendar, wouldn't he?
Most of the time. Sometimes he didn't tell us about personal matters or things where they were going until the day of or whatever, and we would have to reschedule stuff. But if it was on the calendar, yes, he was going to be there for anything that the boys had going on.
He put in his work life family first. Is
Yes,
that right?
that's correct.
You would agree with that?
I would definitely agree with that.
And you got to know Maggie, did
I
you
did.
not?
Yes, sir.
And she was thoughtful for you on your birthday and anything you had going on?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think you mentioned the Ferris trial in Columbia. That was in Columbia, wasn't it?
That was, yes, sir.
And you went to the trial, didn't you?
I did.
And you remember Alec going up on a Sunday and he spent the night in the hospital because his dad was going to have surgery the next day?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it seems like it's been a long time, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Maggie came up on Monday and stayed with him during the trial, right?
I never did see her. Our paths never crossed because I was kind of in work mode, but I know she was there.
Right. And he traveled frequently with Maggie on work trips, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
And he would take his family to conventions and when they would have work, right?
As far as I know, yes, sir.
And Alec wasn't the type of guy that would go off on a guy's trip. His trips were family trips.
I mean, I don't know that without a shadow of a doubt, but, I know a lot of his trips were family related, something with him and Maggie, or him and Maggie and the boys and their significant others.
Right. And he was real close with Maggie's family too, wasn't he?
Yes, it appeared that they were very close.
And if Mr. Brandstatter's, Maggie's dad, couldn't get in touch with Alec on his cell phone, he would call you and ask, where's Alec?
Yeah, he would call myself or Christy and say, hey, can you get Alec to give me a call? Yeah.
And they communicated quite frequently, didn't
they? They did.
And did you meet Mr. and Ms. Brandstatter?
I didn't meet him until, we had Mr. Randolph he got the,
Order of the Palmetto?
Yeah, and that's when I met them. That was the first time I'd ever met Maggie's parents.
And if Alec was in even a deposition, and if Maggie or Paul or Buster would call, he would walk out and take the call, wouldn't he?
I never was present with them. I've heard rumors of such, but I was never present with him at depositions and mediations.
Well, in the office, if he was in a meeting, he would always take their calls, wouldn't he?
Absolutely, yes.
Never say, oh, gosh, you know, tell her I'd call her back. He'd
No,
take her call.
no, he never put off calls with his family. He always talked to them.
Now, you were talking about the night that you learned that Maggie and Paul were murdered, that you thought when you first got the call that it was about Mr. Randolph. Correct. And we're talking about Mr. Randolph murder.
That's correct.
Alex and Randy's dad.
Yes, sir.
Because it was well known that he had just been put back in the hospital and his condition was not well.
Yeah, it was my understanding that at that point, the family was making arrangements to bring him home and hospice may be involved. And so obviously we were all
It's allowed in.
expecting awful
Michelle.
news.
And he, in fact, did die on Thursday, June 10th, I believe.
I believe so too, yes, sir.
And after that, you said that, you know, the whole law firm rallied around not just Alec, but Alec and Randy and their families.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's
And we
what-
rallied around each other because we were scared, we were worried.
Right. And then after, well, I guess there was like a tidal wave of media surrounding the law firm at some point in time, wasn't there?
Yes, sir.
And so y'all had to, you know, be careful with comings and goings, and that was kind of scary, I take it.
It was. We ended up having to lock the front door because they would just walk in and just overwhelm the receptionist. So it became like a daily habit there for a few weeks. So we had to end up locking the door.
And as a result of Maggie and Paul's tragic murder, Alex Murdaugh became front and center of a media spotlight, didn't he?
He did, yes, sir.
And it wasn't, I mean, and there were cameras outside the court, outside the office frequently, right?
There were, yes, sir.
And there were cameras out at Moselle.
I think so. I didn't go out there, but I'm assuming they probably were.
And all the buzz was about Alex Murdaugh and what happened to Maggie and Paul, right?
Yes, sir.
And all the while you were around Alec on occasion, and you noticed his demeanor, and he was grieving greatly, was he not?
He was grieving, and he was also very humble. He had changed dramatically. Afterwards he was more mellow, and he would come in the mornings, and instead of yelling Christy, Annette, and telling us what to do, he would actually come to our desk and say hello and check on us, and we would in turn check on him. So he was very different after the murders.
And he had a hard time working after the murders?
Absolutely, yeah, as you could imagine.
Sure. And you're aware, and you had to keep up with his whereabouts, but he spent a lot of time with Maggie and Maggie's parents?
Yeah, he would tell me that he had weekend plans, and I would hear him on the phone with his in-laws and making plans to meet up for the weekend.
And he stayed in Somerville a good bit with Buster, with Maggie's parents?
As far as I know, yes, sir.
And he and Buster traveled up to the upstate, some Lake Huey or something? Are you aware of that?
I remember him saying, the family had property or something up there, his in-laws, and they were all getting together.
And you're aware that Alec would not spend a single night after Maggie and Paul were murdered at Moselle?
Yes, sir. I knew that.
And when he was working in Hampton, he was either commuting from Somerville, Edisto, or staying with his brother Randy, or something like that?
I knew he was either staying with family, or he was coming back from Somerville or Greenville from being with the in-laws, but that's all I knew.
But he never spent one night more at Moselle?
Not as far as I know, yes, sir.
No grandchildren yet. Buster would
Now,
be their only
you were
hope,
asked questions by Mr. Waters about the Ferris matter was the furthest thing from your mind after the murder of Maggie and Paul, right?
Yes, sir.
And that you didn't do any more about that after Maggie and Paul's murder, right?
That's correct.
But I think you also said that you conveyed your concerns to Jeannie Seconder and that she essentially took over.
That, yes, when I gave it to her, I knew she told me she would take it from there. And so I know I gave it to her and that was that.
And so there's really nothing more for you to do on the Ferris matter after you turned it over to Jeannie, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then you were in this Alex's office one day looking for a file and you stumbled across this canceled check.
Yes, sir. It must have been underneath the file. I wanted in between that and something else. So when I lifted my file, it fluttered to the floor.
And and you felt, I think you talked to this jury about how this whole thing put you in a bad spot, and your daughter said you need to dust your resume off or something like that.
That's
right?
correct. Yes, sir. I was worried. I was hoping I was wrong. I was hoping that my gut feeling was wrong and that what I was looking at was not money being stolen and that he was not doing that. I was hoping I was wrong, but at the same time, I was scared to turn it in because what if they, look into it and it's nothing, there's nothing going on and then, it disturbs the relationship we had working together and, what would I do? Would I be able to stay at the firm after turning him in on something so bad that he could lose his job over it? So I was concerned. I was concerned for my livelihood. I'm a single mom with a teenage daughter.
And nothing happened to your job, right?
No, sir. Nothing happened to my job.
It's Alex who lost his job, right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And you mentioned in what's in the evidence as defendant's exhibit number 441 is a text that you received from Alex, right?
That's correct.
And was it just to you or was it you and
me and Christy, his other secretary.
The other secretary. And the date is Sunday, September 26th at 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon?
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned it was from rehab?
Yes, as far as I knew, it was rehab. I assumed it was probably one of the steps of reaching out to those that you hurt and telling them you're sorry.
And Alec was in rehab?
Yes, sir. As far as I know, he was.
Okay. And I want you to read this to the jury, the whole.
There's the rehab.
If you don't mind,
Okay,
please.
sure. Hey, it's Alex. I'm finally feeling a little better each day. I'm over the worst, but still feel like I have the flu. Real weak. I have been worried about y'all, and I'm sorry I didn't get to tell y'all myself. I know both of you been hurt badly by me. I know it sounds hollow, but I am truly sorry. The better I get, the more guilt I have. I have an awful lot to try to make right when I get out of here. The worst part is knowing I did the most damage to those I love the most. I'm not real sure how I let myself get where I did. I'm committed to getting better and hope to mend as many relationships as I can. You both are special people and important to me. Please know how sorry I am to have made you part of my misdeeds. I hope you are doing as well as possible. I love you very much. Please tell Cheryl and Haley hello, and I'm sorry. All my love.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Anything further?
Very quickly, Your Honor. Mr. Griffin asked you about whether or not you were worried about losing your job over these Ferris fees. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then he asked you, the defendant lost his job, right?
That's correct.
After the murders, but before September, the defendant still had his job, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
He still had his law license, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
You said, in response to defense counsel's question, that people came to him if they needed something, correct?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. He was trusted by everybody, and they knew that if they needed something, all they had to do was reach out, and he was going to help them.
He was trusted by everybody. Did you trust him?
I trusted him. Yes, sir.
People came to him for anything, like all these clients right here?
Yes, sir.
Whoa.
He was a prominent lawyer,
Yes, he was.
one of the most prominent in the region.
Yes.
And all of that came to an end in September 2021 when all of that came out, did it not?
Right. When I found the check, I knew that he had lied to me and that he'd stolen that money.
Thank you. You may step down. You may call your next witness.
Johnny James for the state. State calls Michael Gunn.
Michael Gunn. He's the actual Forge guy, right? He's the real Forge owner, not the fake Forge owner.
Gunn.
Went to take the stand and hasn't been sworn in yet.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you. You can have a seat on the stage.
Address that microphone, address your seat. If you state your name again, and spell your last name, please.
Sure. It's Michael Gunn. Last name is spelled G-U-N-N.
Good morning, Mr. Gunn.
Good morning.
Just barely morning. Where are you from, Mr. Gunn?
From Columbia.
Born and raised?
Oh, grew up in Conway, South Carolina.
Oh, grew up in Conway, South Carolina.
Yes, sir.
All right. Where you work?
Work for Forge Consulting.
And what is Forge Consulting?
Forge Consulting, we are a settlement planning firm based primarily in Atlanta. I run the Columbia or South Carolina office, and we work with people, plaintiffs and plaintiffs' attorneys, to help them really try to take the settlements that have been recovered for them and try to make them make these settlements last a long time. These people normally have been in catastrophic injuries or wrongful death of a loved one.
So your company works with law firms who represent people who've been hurt, and if they get a little bit of money to make them whole, you can help make that money last a longer time. Is that an accurate summary of what you just described?
Yes, sir, and that's the goal.
All right. When did you first start working for Forge Consulting, or do you work for Forge Consulting, or did you found it?
I'm one of the principals in Forge Consulting. We started in 2003. I've been there since 2005.
And what is your actual, you said you're a principal, what is your actual title at Forge Consulting?
I would be a principal and settlement consultant.
Okay. And so do you work directly with the attorneys yourself in arranging some of these settlements and structures and things of that nature?
Yes, sir, I do.
So if you could, what exactly is a structured settlement in a summary form?
Sure, kind of a primer on it. Essentially, a structured settlement is when it's only available to those who've been, first of all, to those who've been injured or involved in a wrongful death or workers' compensation. It's really a method for them to try and save money. And what I mean by that is when they get the settlement, they have an opportunity to put some of that money into almost like an annuity. And that annuity would pay them over time, much like a paycheck, because a lot of these folks have lost their jobs, they've lost a loved one, or they have bills to pay. And so by doing that, it allows them to receive that money, but not only do they receive the funds, they do receive them tax-free from the federal government.
Totally tax-free?
Totally tax-free, with interest.
Now, who actually funds these annuities that ultimately get paid out to those who've been hurt?
Sure. Well, generally speaking, the annuities are funded by the insurance company that's paying the claim, or the defendant themselves. That's generally speaking.
And when they pay that claim, where does that money go in order to fund the annuity? Does it go to Forge Consulting?
The only way it would go to Forge Consulting is if the check was made payable to that insurance company, and then we would forward the check on to that insurance company.
So in that instance, you wouldn't actually be really taking the money, you'd just be stuffing it in an envelope.
We'd be a mail
and sending it on?
carrier. We'd just be a mail carrier, correct.
And I apologize, we're both speaking pretty quickly here. Madam Court Reporter can only record one of us at a time, so if I'm asking a question, try and let me complete it and then answer thereafter.
Yep.
So to clarify, the only instance where you would get any money is if the check is made out to an insurance company, you stuff it in another envelope and send it on its way.
That's correct.
But ultimately, the money comes from the insurance company to whoever's funding this annuity. Is that correct?
Generally speaking, yes.
And the people funding this annuity would be another insurance company or some other firm of that nature. Is that correct?
That is correct.
They're not letting the court recorder breathe at all in this. Just rapid
So that
fire.
would be the structuring of monies awarded in a lawsuit to the person hurt. What about monies awarded to the lawyer in a lawsuit? What about an attorney's fees? Can those be structured?
They can be.
All right. And how does that process work?
It's a very, very similar process. It's a similar outcome. The difference is the attorneys would be deferring it, but when they received the funds, they would have to pay the tax at that time. But it is a way to defer the taxes like that. But it's the same scenario. The money would have to come from the defendant and/or its insurance carrier. And there would also have to be language included in settlement documents, et cetera.
But it couldn't come directly to the attorney, could it?
No, sir. That would be constructive receipt, and the IRS would consider that taxable income.
Constructive receipt, and they would consider it taxable income. So can you explain that just a little bit more for me?
Well, if they were
just a minute,
if they receive the money, then the IRS is going to consider that taxable at the time it hits their account, and therefore undoing that is going to be quite a bit of a problem.
And so then they would get taxed on all of that money, correct?
That is correct.
As opposed to just the amount of money that they wanted to get that year.
That is correct.
And you indicated that it would be deferred taxation. So to use an example, let's say I represent somebody on a big suit and get $1 million in attorney's fees. If I were to structure it, I could have that stretched out over 10 years, $100,000 a year, and then am I hearing it correctly? I wouldn't get taxed on $1 million all at once. I would get taxed on that $100,000 a year each year for those next 10 years. Is that a good way of describing it?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay. And as a result, pay less in taxes.
That's the goal.
Are you familiar with an individual by the name of Richard Alexander Murdaugh?
I am.
Do you see him in the courtroom here today?
I do.
Can you point him out for me?
Wearing a checked shirt and a blue jacket, it appears.
Let the record show that he identified Mr. Murdaugh. When did you first meet Mr. Murdaugh?
Probably 20 years ago, give or take a few years, 20 years ago. Probably at a convention or a continuing education seminar, since our primary market are plaintiffs' attorneys.
And what was your first impression of Mr. Murdaugh?
Very jovial, friendly, never met a stranger, just a generally nice guy.
Did you have occasion to work with Mr. Murdaugh more going forward from that point in time?
I did, as generally speaking, as we get to know our clients, a lot of times friendships get born out of that, and you get more comfortable dealing with them. And so yes, I worked with his firm a great deal. Did a lot of work with his firm. I probably actively would work. I've worked probably 5 cases with Mr. Murdaugh.
Now, in terms of those at his firm, did you work with Alec on a lot of cases or relatively few cases compared to his partners?
If you compare it to his partners, relatively few.
So most of the time you were working with the other folks at PM,
Alex is working with the other forge.
Alec maybe just a handful of times. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did Alec hold any other positions other than his role at the law firm that caused you two to work with one another frequently?
Sure. At one time, he was the president of the Association for Justice, which is a voluntary organization of plaintiffs' attorneys. And so we'd be very closely together at trial lawyer events and things of that nature, CLEs.
And is there a shorthand for that organization that used to be applied to it? The
SCAJ.
SCAJ. As part of your professional relationship with Alec, what sorts of things would y'all do together?
Again, usually these would be at events. It was never really a one-off. It was usually events. Golf, dinner, lunch, things like that. Just things that you would do. Things that you would do when you're at a Hilton Head.
About how many times would you say you golf together?
I'd probably say I'd put the over-under around 15. 15? Yeah.
As a gambling man, too.
And you'd go have dinner, maybe some drinks together at the conference, correct?
You'd go gamble together.
Not every year, but we would see each other. But, dinner was probably few and far between.
Did you ever go hang out with Mr. Murdaugh at Moselle or any of his other properties?
No, sir.
Did he ever come and hang out with you in Columbia for dinner or drinks or anything like that?
It would be business related.
Did you ever go to any sporting events with him, like a Gamecocks football game or anything like that?
I never went with him. I may have seen him there, but never went with him, no.
There's a lot of folks in the stadium at Williams-Brice on game day.
Depending on the season.
Apparently he's trying to connect with a juror there or something.
Did Mr. Murdaugh ever meet you in Columbia and deliver some checks to you and tell you, hey, these are for the clients for structures or anything like that?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever meet with him halfway between Columbia and Hampton and get checks from him?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever call him and say, hey, can you bring those checks to me so that we can finance this?
Absolutely not.
And would Forge, under any circumstances, accept client money checks personally in order to fund an annuity for them?
No, sir.
And so if you received or saw or reviewed an instrument made out to Forge and it said in the memo line, money for client or something to that effect, would that instrument be legit?
Here's the legit.
Well, it would be returned to the person that sent it to us with an explanation as to why we could not take it.
You would not take it?
No, we would not take it.
In working with Mr. Murdaugh, did you ever discuss options with him about how to structure fees for his clients?
Generally speaking, we have those conversations with attorneys, and I do remember he inquired about it, kind of went through what you would need to do.
This guy does structured settlements.
The process.
He ran the real Forge that did
yes.
business with
So
PPMB.
did you explain to him some of the things that we've explained to these folks from around the county here today?
It's the same canned elevator speech I give to everyone. This is how the mechanics of how it works.
Were there any specific cases that he came to you and asked you about whether you could set up a structure?
I don't recall if there was a specific case. I do remember there was a case where we sent some options over one time and nothing ever came to fruition. It was just, here's what you can do.
Do you recall the name Dion Martin?
I do recall the name Dion Martin.
What, if anything, do you recall about Dion Martin? Was that one of Alex's cases?
It was. What I recall about that case is that I got a signed option from plaintiff's counsel, signed by Mr. Dion Martin, or I'm assuming Mr. Martin, saying he wanted to set aside X amount of dollars. I'm not really sure exactly what that amount was. And he wanted to do it to an annuity. And so annuities, like anything, it's kind of based off of stock market and whatnot, so they can kind of go up and down. So there's a time window in which you are able to purchase that. If not, the rate may go up, the rate may go down. And so I consistently sent emails to Mr. Murdaugh as well as his paralegal, Annette Griswold. I would say at least 4, maybe 5 emails saying, hey, this is going to expire. This is going to expire if you don't fund this now. And after getting no response, after multiple weeks, we just closed our file.
So you did open a file for Mr. Martin, correct?
We open a file for every case, yes.
For every case, and I want to drill onto that a little bit. What prompts you to open a file?
Well, part of it is so that we can remember if the attorney calls us and says, hey, I've got a case I'm about to start working on, or we got it, and they don't give us any information because they might be in the car, we can say, okay, this is the John Smith case, and I've got that tied to an attorney. And so that's how we do that. So
if you get so much as a phone call saying, I want to talk to you about so-and-so, you make a file.
That is correct.
Even if it's just one conversation.
I always ask for
Did you guys hear anything interesting there?
Do you ask for any other information?
I ask for a great deal of information.
He sends emails for
oftentimes that takes a little while to get, but the name
so
is what I need.
You need to fund this to Annette and to Alex, and didn't hear anything back. So Annette should have been getting emails saying that the check hasn't arrived to Forge or whatever.
Are you aware of a boat collision that occurred in early of 2019 in relation to Mr. Murdaugh or his family?
I'm aware.
And are you aware of generally any litigation that resulted from that case?
I'm aware.
After that boat crash, and that litigation began, did you have any further conversations with Mr. Murdaugh about structuring any fees that he might earn?
We had general conversations, generic conversations, but we never had any in-depth conversations.
So he never asked any specifics beyond the general canned speech?
It was, this is what you can do and this is what you can't do.
Did he ever bring you any fees and say, hey, I would like to structure these or anything to that effect?
No, sir.
Do you recall in and around September of 2021, receiving a phone call from Lee Cope?
I do.
And what generally, well, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Mr. Cope called me, asked me if he could trust me, asked if he could trust my office as much as he trusted me, let me rephrase that, and said, I'd like to give you a name of some cases, and could you tell me what y'all have done for those clients? He gave me probably 10 to 12 names. I remember I was standing in my driveway, so I'm furiously writing down these names, hoping I could read my own handwriting. And I got back with Mr. Cope and told him I didn't have a file open on any of these people.
None of them?
Not a one.
Not a single name that he provided to you?
No, sir.
Did they follow up with you and provide you any additional names?
They did. The next day, he called me again, gave me another list of names, went through that list. The only name that stood out was the Dion Martin that I referenced earlier.
Did they ask you about where Forge Consulting did its banking?
They asked me if we banked at Bank of America, and I told them we had not for the last 4 years.
Was it the last 4 years, or was it a little bit longer than that?
It was 4 to 5 years, somewhere in that range.
I jumped ahead a little bit. You are generally aware of the events of June 7th, 2021. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I am.
When did you first become aware of the murders of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh?
Probably early morning on June 8th, probably 5:36 in the morning. I got a couple of phone calls, a couple of missed phone calls.
What did you do after learning of the murders?
Other than being stunned by it all, I let my wife know, called a few other people. I let my business partners know.
Did you reach out to anybody in relation to Mr. Murdaugh or Mr. Murdaugh himself?
I did reach out to one or two of his law partners just to express my condolences, and you know, obviously asked to hope it wasn't true, but that was confirmed. And then I waited a day and reached out to Mr. Murdaugh and just let him know we were thinking of him, didn't have the words for what to say.
Had you ever met Paul or Maggie?
I have.
Did you know Paul very well?
I didn't know Paul very well. I knew of him, but I didn't know him very well.
How well did you know Maggie?
I knew Maggie, pretty well. She would oftentimes, I believe when Buster was in school in Columbia, she would text me and ask me where he could get his hair cut and where he could get his pants hemmed and things like that. And I was kind of like her local Google. So, but it was funny because I'd always respond to her.
You're in Columbia, Buster's in Columbia, she's in Hampton, and so she's texting you with questions.
Absolutely.
Did you attend the funeral for Paul and Maggie?
I did.
Did you see Alec there?
I did.
Did he say anything to you?
Not at the funeral, but after.
Did you go to a wake afterwards?
I did.
Did he say anything to you at the wake?
He told me how much Maggie had loved me and my wife and our family.
Between that wake and September of 2021, did you see the defendant, Mr. Murdaugh, on any other occasions?
I saw him in Hilton Head in August. That was the only time I saw him.
Where did you see him?
At the Skage Conference in Hilton Head Island, the annual convention. That's all attorneys and vendors and whatnot attend.
But at the lawyers' convention in
Yes.
Hilton Head?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Oh. Was anybody with him?
His brother, John Marvin, was with him primarily, but others were around, law firm, members of the firm.
What was the scope of your interactions with Mr. Murdaugh at the convention?
We hung out a little bit, or said, exchanged pleasantries, hugs, still, couldn't believe what had happened. And we did go to dinner. I went to dinner with him, his brother, and the majority, I don't want to count them off, of his law firm on, I believe it was Saturday evening.
Now, we've talked about Forge Consulting. Are there any subsidiaries of Forge Consulting or alternative names or other companies associated with Forge?
We do have two other companies that are under the Forge umbrella. One is Advocacy Trust, which is a trust company, and the other one is Advocacy Wealth Management, which manages, it's a veteran SEC-related wealth management firm.
Do you have any subsidiary, excuse me, stumbling over my own tongue. Do you have any subsidiaries that are just named Forge?
No, sir, we do not.
Did you ever tell Mr. Murdaugh that he could use the name of Forge Consulting or Forge for his own purposes?
Absolutely not.
Prior to September of 2021, did you have any knowledge that Mr. Murdaugh was using the name of Forge for his own purposes?
No, sir.
Beg my own court's indulgence.
Get a little instruction from Creighton here. See what else needs to be brought up.
I'll stand for a moment.
The court recorder was dying to get that shawl off. She couldn't take it off until... So they said, I'll stand. She was one of the first people up. She's like, sweet, we get a break. The lady, I think she did find another job. I don't think she works there anymore. It's my understanding.
All right, come to order.
Picky, I don't know. I think he does go back to the jail during lunch and get a lunch there.
Showing you a document. It's already in evidence as State's Exhibit 335.
You're about to get your
This
bingo.
document
if he backs
says it's
up to
a
that
Bank
door.
of America statement. Is this an account statement from a Forge Consulting account?
No, sir, it is not.
He's got a little bit of purple in his tie, I think. And I could show you some of the other videos where he's got more color to him. But
35 on the Elmo for the jurors to see it. Richard A. Murdaugh, Sole Prop, DBA, Forge. That's not one of your accounts?
No, sir.
No further questions for this witness.
By the defense.
Good afternoon.
You had some formal positions with the South Carolina Association of Justice?
Yes, sir.
And what were those?
Did some government affairs lobbying work for them.
Okay, on a contract basis?
As an employee and as a contract.
Okay. And at one point in time, Alex Murdaugh was the president of the South Carolina SCAJ?
Yes, sir, he was.
And were you employed at the time or contract lobbyist?
Yes, sir, I was employed at the time, yes, sir.
And part of his duties, well, I guess he was on the board for a period of time as well, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And the SCAJ board and the president would meet in Columbia quarterly, monthly, how often?
They would meet in Columbia probably twice a year. They normally met at the convention spots or the CLE spots, and then one was always by telephone. But usually the president was, even the telephone call, the president would come to Columbia.
And when he would come to Columbia, you remember Maggie would come with him and spend the night on those business trips?
Sometimes, yeah. I don't know specifically for that for the Skage stuff, but I do. Maggie spend the night in Columbia, yes.
But you saw them traveling together in Columbia. I mean, you said you would see him in Columbia on business reasons. Was the business reasons his membership on the board and then?
I would say, generally speaking, most of the time when I would see him, it would be because of that, yes, sir.
Okay. And then he and Maggie came to you and your wife's wedding in New York, right?
They did.
And my understanding is the big day came on the day of a big blizzard.
3 feet of snow, yes, sir.
And so you had to delay the wedding a day, right?
We did.
This is Michael Gunn
and you
from
got
Forge
to spend
Consulting.
a lot more time with Maggie and Alec during that period of time?
All the other guests, yes, sir.
Right. And so at that point in time, your wife became friends with Maggie, and y'all became pretty good social friends?
I think so. I mean, we still didn't really hang out much after the wedding other than professional settings, and that could have been just because of the distance between the towns. But, yeah, we keep in touch, no doubt.
And then every year, I think you mentioned, there's an annual convention at Hilton Head of we used to call it trial lawyers, but...
I still do, too.
Yeah. Of the trial lawyers, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's usually at a hotel. It used to be at the Westin at Port Royal, I think.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
I think maybe they moved it. I don't know.
Marriott now.
Yeah. So, and there would be seminars, during the day, and then there'd be socializing in the evenings.
Yes, sir.
And it was a family event.
Very much so.
And Alec would bring Maggie and Paul and Buster.
Every time.
And you got to see him interact with his entire family.
I did.
And he was a family man, wasn't he?
By all accounts, yes, sir.
And you went to Maggie and Paul's funeral?
Yes, sir, I did.
And then after the funeral, you went out to Moselle?
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure, what was Alec's demeanor?
He was a broken man. You could tell. He was very upset. He was very upset.
And then you saw him a few months later at that convention at Hilton Head?
Yes, sir, I did.
And you said he was with his brother John Marvin?
Yes, sir.
And his son Buster was there too. You remember that?
I believe that's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. Now John Marvin's not a lawyer, right?
He's not.
Is it unusual for John Marvin to come to the lawyer convention?
I had not seen him before, no, at the convention, no.
Right. He was there supporting his brother?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And people were trying to lift Alex spirits up and support him during that period of time?
I think so, yes, sir.
All right. 1 second, Your Honor.
I don't have anything further. Nothing further from the state.
Thank you, sir.
Right, take your water with you. That's all you get. All right, Chris Wilson. Who's it going to be? Ryan. I didn't hear. Was it Ryan or Chris? I know we're going to get Chris later today. Oop, there's a button. There's a badge. Let's see who this is.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. If you'll have a seat on the stand. If you'll state your name, just that microphone there, and spell your last name for the record.
Brian Hudak, Hudak.
Agent Hudak, how are you doing today?
Pretty good.
Where are you employed?
South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, also known as SLED.
All right, and what is your duties there?
I'm a special agent in computer crimes.
All right, and just briefly, what do your duties entail? At the
Conduct forensic examinations, cell phones, computers, vehicle infotainment modules, any sort of electronic device that can hold evidence. Also, I'm an evidence custodian for the unit.
Just a moment, sir.
You having trouble with the microphone? What's up? He has a quieter voice.
I have the jury go to the jury room for a recess.
What just happened? What just happened here? I didn't see what it was. I don't know what just happened. I know that Mrs. Ari brought me a salad, and I missed something. I've got a beautiful salad here. Oops, as I drop it all.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have to evacuate the building.
Holy cow.
At this time, so we'll be in recess until we discover what's going on.
Okay. The cameras are going to cut off, unfortunately.
We'll couple this with a lunch break until 2:30.
2:30. Okay, so we just got a 2-hour break. Let me start watching what is going on. This is not a drill. This is not a drill. Just 1 second here. It hasn't hit Twitter yet. Just 1 second. Okay. Trying to see if anybody has some information here. This is the courthouse version of getting swatted by the internet, says Thal. Yeah, I don't know. We're sort of going to watch this feed just in case something comes back. We don't have any audio yet. I wish they had kept a camera on the courtroom. That would have been awesome. No specifics as to why this trial is juicy. Let's see. Let's go here. We've got a talking head on law and crime. Trying to drop in Doritos via balloon. Yeah, what's a court case unless you get evacuated at least once, right? This is not a drill. I will tell you that because of the thin walls of the courtroom, we can hear the traffic outside. I don't think there was anything outside that would have indicated there was something happening on the grounds. This smells like an Alex Murdaugh distraction, allegedly, says Tish. Let's see. Nobody has anything. Is there a police and fire station next door? Perhaps problems there. It's Alex Murdaugh's diversions again. Can we find another feed showing what's happening? No, all the feeds are shut off. When the judge stands up, all the feeds turn. We might be able to see some cameras out on the grounds, but currently nothing. The camera's being shaken, which means somebody's walking next. That means somebody's bumped the tripod. When you see the screen shake like that, someone bumped the tripod. So people are still in the courtroom, but I'm not sure what's happening yet. Locals know. Anybody? That witness must have had something big. Yeah, there have been plenty of fart jokes in chat. Maybe that's what happened, and it just wafted up towards the judge. He's like, "No, we're out of here. We're out." Let's see. You guys are funny. James and DUI guy are in court. Yeah, they were yesterday as well. Maybe the Ohio chemical cloud drifted further south. Lindsay, we just, the courtroom got evacuated. That's all we heard. The judge excused the jury. And then as the jury was leaving, he basically said, never mind, everyone's going to leave. We're getting evacuated until we figure out what's up. It's going to be a 2-hour break. So it's going to come back at 2:30. Court TV said a bomb threat. It was all planned by Alex. It's all part of his master plan. Unfortunately, Thal, I think they might be right there because this anytime you have a large televised event where lots of things are happening, it draws the crazy people out that try to get attention. Can I show outside? I'm looking for outside. I don't have any feeds from outside yet. There are people probably rushing to get outside. Let's go scout the Twitter net for clues. Let's see. Let's see what's happening here. Let's see. I'm checking the timeline here. Amber, thanks for that. Let's see. On Twitter, bomb threat at the courthouse, according to Chanley. Probably was phoned in or communicated to them somehow. I don't think they actually located something. So yeah, looks like there's been a bomb threat. Twitter says bomb threat. This is the most exciting thing so far today. Where would he go? He's going to go back in custody. Twitter's short on verified information. I agree. All we've heard is that it's a bomb threat. I believe the lily has been gilded. Just folks assuming things on Twitter right now. A couple stations have televised it as well. 2 minutes behind, but I don't want to miss anything. Well, Rowdy, we've got lunch coming up. We've got a 2-hour lunch. I can't believe no one had this on their bingo card, says Brooklyn. Of course. Now we know for the future trials, especially the big ones, you've got to have the courtroom evacuated because of a threat. Just logging on, had major surgery Monday. What is going on? Bomb threat? Micah, yeah, just in time. They just got a new SLED witness up on the stand. He barely got to say his name, and they excused the jury and then evacuated the courtroom. They are evacuating, yes. It's the killer. He's still out there. Chanley, I think Chanley is there, and she is saying that it's a bomb threat. So that's what they're getting from inside the courtroom. I'm not sure if it's been communicated to them what it was or if they just needed to leave. Court TV says it is a bomb threat to wake up everybody. Special from the food truck, wild hog on a stick. Let's see what we're getting here from Court TV. See if they've got any audio or anything they can share with us. Just people evacuating, it looks like. Headed to lunch. All casual, like followed by the entourage of cameramen. So let's see what that is. All right. Turn this off. Okay. So yeah, not much happened. If it blows up, we'll see it live since the camera is still on. Yeah, we can do that. It'll just be a flash the way that happens. This is insane. It's happened before though. They're going to do a quick sweep. It probably will mean lunch is a little bit longer. It is a long lunch, Samantha. They'll do a quick sweep of the courthouse, determine there's probably no threat. I think this particular courthouse is it's not like a lot of rooms to check. It should be a pretty quick sweep. They'll bring in a dog and it'll do its work. Trying to blow up the evidence, maybe. It's the holy hand grenade. Cousin Eddie didn't break out of jail. No, I don't think so. Everyone's just evacuated. They're headed down the street just a little bit. Looks like they're hanging out, ready for some lunch. Jimbo, we've in the previous trials where we've seen an evacuation in court, they did resume. It was about two hours later. Do we blame Weather Watch for the evacuation? It seems fair. It seems fair. Everything else is his fault. It's trying to make it look like Alex has enemies. Man, that's holy cow. I don't think that would happen, but holy cow, can you imagine if it did? If somebody set off a bomb? See, it's them. They're back. Why weren't there sirens? I believe it was just phoned in. So we're probably just having people coming to the courtroom now. It's a small courthouse. Won't take long to clear. I agree. Do not have pickles on the salad. Apparently, Mrs. R.A. did not hear that I was going to have some pickles for lunch. So I'll have to get them myself. She did make a delicious salad. Looks like a Cobb or a chef salad today. We blame Weather Watch for everything. He's used to it. He says, I did not do it this time. This time being the operative bit. So last time, it's basically a confession to last time being his fault. The juror with the time crunch is going to be mad. The jury will get lunch. They will get lunch. So does this warrant a SWAT bomb squad to report to the scene? Yes. Natural Empress, unfortunately, it requires that. They have to treat every threat like that as if it's real. Then you stepped away for 8 minutes, and yep, everything went kablooey. We're not seeing any evidence of anything happening other than people just moving away from the courthouse and talking on their phones. That's all I can see on the feeds that are available. And they heard that I wanted pickles, so we have some pickles. Look at this. I'm going to have to put them on myself, but I like it that way because spicy maple bourbon pickles. Oh, I've got the focus turned off. Let me do it this way. Spicy maple bourbon pickles right there. Only half a jar, which does make me sort of sad because it's less than a serving size. DUI guy live with a bomb threat. Yes, he was in there. Would you like to swap this yummy salad for porridge? Oh, tempting, but no. Let's see. Let's go ahead and take a break then, because I can tell you nothing's going to happen until after lunch. So let's take a break. We'll try to gather some information a little bit over lunch and see what's happening. That's crack for foodies. I love these pickles. The sirens were actually here at my house. We're just driving by. They do that often. Hope the bomb squad doesn't have to travel from Columbia. No, they probably have somebody local, at least a dog or something. But let's go ahead and I'll excuse everybody for break. I know there's some other stations that are producing content. It's a little different to share their content when it's an event like this. I will get copyright strikes for something like that, so I can't just grab that. DUI guy just went bye-bye. Yeah, there's a little sound bits on there. I think what we're going to get best is after this. There's a summation. After the lunch is over, we're going to get a little summation of what happened and that everybody's safe, and we can go ahead. Everyone go to my house for yummy salad. Half a jar is less than one serving size. Yes, it's actually half a serving size. A full jar is one serving size. So we'll see after lunch. We're going to look into things over lunch. Keep the burner phone lit up. If you find anything, we'll share that with everybody when we come back. Right now, it's really just a little bit of chaos, and nobody knows what's going on.
Open-ended question about what's going on.
Yeah, nobody knows. So nobody knows what's going on. Pickle time. See Addicts in a couple. Let's play some music and release you all for lunch wherever you can find it. Because it's that time. Thanks all for being here. I think it's going to get a little bit more spicy this afternoon as we get some more testimony. I want to hear Chris Wilson. I'm hoping we get Tingly Tinsley up on the stand as well. That'll be fun as well. Someone get R.A. a barrel of those pickles, please. How do I pin this comment, Jennifer? There we go. Pin the message. Love that thought. If they came in barrel size, I think I would buy that. Set up after lunch now so we can chat. Did you ever share my beach pics? Douglas, I don't know. Did you send them today? If you sent them today, I didn't. I'm trying to remember. I have a very short memory. See, Chick-fil-A, here I come. Snack time. Okay, guys, we're going to be back. Please, if you like what you saw here this morning, please subscribe, ring the bell. We do this every day, 9 a.m., pretty much till, whenever court ends. We do take a break for lunch, and that's going to happen now while the bomb squad just cleans out the courtroom and makes sure nothing nefarious is occurring down there. Make sure everybody's going to be safe so we can continue this gripping testimony about financial crimes, which may or may not have anything to do with murder. So we'll see you guys on the flip side of this one. Please hug people you love, smile at someone, make the day just a little bit better, and stay safe. Stay safe, please. Stay away from the courtroom until we go back live. We'll be back about, looks like about an hour and a half. We'll be back live. So we'll see you about then. See ya.